We can start, Virendra, now.
Okay, shall we start?
Virendra, please start now. Unmute you.
Mr. Kale's time is as per BD or what? Bangladesh time. Hello, everyone. Hello, Mardi from UK. Welcome. Dr. Danta from Jakarta. Welcome.
Hello.
Shamaya, welcome from Dhaka. I welcome all the participants to our second consecutive day of ESG International Web Series 2020. This is wonderful again and very warm welcome to today's event. We have a very eminent panel and influencer, policy makers, activists who are making a big difference everywhere, promoting environmental social governance. And in that context, you are going to hear hereafter a lot about what is happening in the ESG arena. We have for today, we have the first session starting on the what is the new opportunities for the corporate reporting professionals. Dr. Danta is going to talk that what is that he has for them. So he's going to give us a technical presentation as well as the techno-commercial also, that how people are going to be benefited out of this program. This is a new launch, a global certification program launched by ESR Asia. So something very, very exciting and new from Dr. Danta we are going to have. We are going to discuss that in detail, followed by this brief introduction. Once we finish that, then we have a gentleman, a very renowned professional from our Reserve Bank of India, also known as a central bank, the Chief General Manager, Mr. Kale. He is going to tell us something very interesting, unknown, because nobody knows what is there for us. So certainly he's going to explore, he's going to give us a lot of insights that what lies ahead. So maybe lots of opportunities and challenges he's going to share with us. As a banker, I think he has a lot to hide and a lot to expose in terms of the opportunities. So we will hear from him, and he will also touch upon on the insurance sectors, that how that sector is going to be, behave, I would say. I would not say impacted this way or that way, but behave as a consequence of this COVID-19. Then we have our speakers coming from another part of our continent. We will have Mardi from UK, She is going to share us a lot on what her organization and she is doing in the domain of climate disclosure standards. I think that's the need of the hour. Everybody is uh, concerned about it. Everybody is too much tempted also that what and how we are going to move forward, because there's no new normal, as everybody is talking. I'm not going to copy this word again, but I think there's new insights out there, and Mardi is going to talk about it. Mardi is going to also discuss that how organization is, doing it together with many stakeholders globally. Then we also have a speaker, we have Dr. Nandita. She's the ambassador to IIRC integrated reporting framework. So she is also going to throw a light on that, how the reporting I mean, in the integrated fashion, how the reporting is going to be more exciting, more fruitful in view of the ESG parameters, how financial, non-financial reporting and integrated reporting and sustainability reporting, and I think lots of new things, lot of new insights from Dr. Nandita. And then also we have a person, the Director South Asia GRI, Dr. Aditi Haldar, would also be blasting with new ideas, what she has to offer for the entire South Asia. So that all and much more we have for the day. And therefore, I now welcome everyone here and participants from across continent, across countries. Hope everybody enjoy today's sessions, and I wish you all a good day, a good learning, good takeaway from these wonderful people who are going to share all their insights. So back to you, Shumaya, now for the next round of discussion. Shumaya.
Yes, I think yes, Dr. Danta, I have no role to play today because Dr. Danta will start the presentation with a very exciting program of SR Asia, which is a global certification program for assurer and sustainability report writers, which it is our launching today, and our first course is going to start on October. So Danta will bring some new information, and I think that it is very much important for the professionals who really wants to develop a career in as a assurer or as a report writer. And you know that we are in a digital platform. Now we are adopting this technology, so it is now very important for us how to work without going to field or compromising the field visit. Thank you. Over to Danta.
Okay.
So before you start, Dr. Danta, I have a brief introduction to share about Dr. Danta. I think he already looks like a doctor, but nevertheless, I must say something for my audiences that Dr. Danta Pushka, we call him, he's known as Dr. Semerdanta Pushka. He's a co-founder of SR Asia and also a co-founder of PT Icon Global Indonesia, a consulting company focusing on strategic sustainability management in Indonesia. He is graduate from De La Salle University, Manila, Philippines. He is a knowledgeable professional on sustainability and social responsibility. Some of his areas of expertise are ISO 26000, guidance on social responsibility. He is certified professional on SROI from New Zealand.
UK, yeah.
Yeah. And he has expertise on sustainable finance, sustainability reporting, integrated reporting, assurance as per A1000 standard series. He has been serving various industry sectors such as uh, oil and gas, mining, pulp and paper, cement, servicing and various service industries. Besides that, he is also an expert with the Asian Productivity Organization, Japan, Indonesia Global Compact Network, International Labour Organization, ILO, International Finance Corporation. He is also a lecturer with many studies and a vice dean appointed very, very recently. So, Dr. Danta, welcome to this session. And I would now welcome you to present new age opportunities for corporate reporting professionals. So back to you.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Sumaya, and thank you, Birendra, for a very comprehensive presentation of my profile. Okay, I would like to share my slides. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So, okay, can you see it now?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you. I would like to present my topic, yeah, about the new age opportunities for cooperative reporting professionals, as explained by Sumaya. ESG is now launching a program. It is a certification program for the corporate reporting professionals. This program is launched initially in Indonesia because, you know, Indonesia is a big country that has very huge potentials in terms of corporate ESG reporting. Yeah. Okay. So I would like to start with ASR Asia. Back in 2011, at the time, we have an idea to start a networking organization after a number of professionals joining the ISO 26000 workshop decided by the APO Tokyo, Asian Productivity Organization. So right now, ESG has been developing so much. ESG is now has its position as an international hub of knowledge in terms of sustainability and social responsibility, including in terms of assurance services on sustainability report and integrated report. Well, up to now, ESG is headquartered in India, and now we have a number of networks in Asian countries and also legal entities in Bangladesh and Indonesia. Well, the good thing about ESR Asia is our activities are designed and intended to meet the needs of the companies or clients with each country's needs and characteristics. It means that we have a very diverse activities and programs that each ESR Asia country member can have its own services to meet the client's needs. Yeah. Okay. So, for example, India, yeah, Asia India managed by Birendra Raturi, and Asia Bangladesh managed by Sumaya. Compared to the activities in Indonesia, probably not the same. Yeah, because we really want to make Asia as a source full of organization that can meet different needs of the companies. Okay. So here are some Asia activities. We have conducted a number of international conferences in India, Bangladesh, and Indonesia. We have a lot of community development projects and assessment. Sumaya in Bangladesh is really into productivity assessment and consultation, especially in textile, for the textile companies. And we also provide services in material flow cost accounting, or MFCA. We have conducted a number of research projects, stakeholder dialogues, consultation, and training programs. Especially in East Asia, Indonesia, we have conducted a number of assurance services on the sustainability reports or integrated reports of big companies in Indonesia. Some of the companies came from different industry sectors, such as the banks, cement producers, coal mining, national energy companies, construction, palm oil plantation, and of course the state-owned companies. Well, we have also conducted an assurance service to a palm oil plantation company in Malaysia about 3 years ago. Okay, if you can see at the picture, two pictures at the bottom, a picture of our volunteering research team, and at the right bottom is our picture in our international conference in Jakarta in 2015. As you remember, in 2015, that was the first time the SDGs was launched. And Asia was successfully organizing the conference to introduce the launch of SDGs there. We collaborate with Global Compact, IBCSD, and a number of universities there. Now let's talk about the corporate reporting. As we are already know that we are in a sustainability era, and sustainability principles, SDGs, influence the way of businesses now. Previously, the companies only publish financial reports, but now, after a certain development, regarding the good corporate governance issues in Indonesia, for example, the companies issue annual report every year. So this report covers both financial aspects and good corporate governance. But after that, when we talk about the sustainability, the SDGs, and how the companies can contribute to sustainability at large, many companies now publish sustainability report. And some companies in Indonesia also already issue integrated report. Well, in sustainability report, a company presents its commitment and also achievement in terms of economy, environment, social, and good corporate governance practices. While in integrated report, a company presents how the organization is valuable, creating values for the stakeholders in different aspects, in different dimensions. Okay. Now let's talk about Asia assurance activities. Asia is a A1000 licensed assurance provider with our registered number 0000174. So if you would like to see how Asia is listed in the A1000, you can visit their website. You can find Asia name there. Okay, so we usually conduct the assurance activities, the assurance service, refer to different standards, guidelines, and regulations. It depends on the report of the client. Some clients, for example, from oil and gas industry, they usually they can refer to the certain standards for oil and gas. Yeah. Or our clients from the banking sectors, they would like to refer to certain standards related to the sustainable banking performance. So Sarisha, you know, the key competence of SRSA is to be flexible, to have flexibilities in adopting different standards, guidelines, and regulations for doing the assurance. So by doing that way, we ensure that the reports of the clients can describe the sustainability context of the companies. Yeah. Okay. So that is related to the specific methodology and approaches that SRSA has. So we, in doing assurance, we really ensure that the report explain the sustainability context of the clients, including the key issues, the key stakeholders. Yeah. And in doing our assurance service, we analyze the rest of the report content to the principles and indicators. Yeah. More than that, we also check the data reliability. We ask the evidence documents from the clients, and we also review the numbers. Yeah. Okay. We also do in our assurance service, we also analyze the basis for sustainability governance. For example, how the clients perform materiality testing in developing the report, and how the clients carry out stakeholder engagement in doing business. Yeah. Okay. So the result of our assurance service is an independent assurance statement that that is placed in the client's sustainability report document. In doing assurance, of course, we engage international experts. You know, because in doing assurance, SRSA emphasizes on, of course, number one, sustainability context. Second is the international exposure. Okay. Last but not least, in doing assurance, we use an online assurance tool. We SRSA developed this assurance tool by itself. Yeah. The good thing about this assurance tool, it can be we can work online, and we adopt any standards, guidelines, and indicators that are used by the clients as a reference. Okay, so our assurance tool is we can say it is a dynamic and developing online platform. Every year, once a new indicators are coming up, and we have to update the assurance tool. So every year we are ready to engage with clients with different standards, guidelines, and indicators. Okay, now let's talk about the worldwide opportunities in assurance service. Yeah, and also in corporate reporting. Yeah. Now we have a lot of growing principles and standards. Yeah, we have the GRI standards, Global Reporting Initiative. I believe Dr. Aditi Haldar will explain more about the GRI, and I recognize that GRI is now preparing a development of more standards. Yeah, more developed standards, and we also recognize the SASB standard. Sustainability Accounting Standard Board, which is in US. Yeah, and we also know that we have integrated reporting framework. Yeah, the International Integrated Reporting Framework, or IIRC, and we also recognize that some clients use the TCFD guidelines. Yeah, Task Force on Climate Disclosure. We have Ms. Mardi here will explain more about the CFD. And we also know that some clients engage with WWF and would like to use SUSBA or Sustainable Banking Assessment as their reference for developing the report. Okay, and for the companies which are the member of the United Nations Global Compact, yeah, those companies need to submit communication on progress, which is a report about the performance in adopting the 10 principles of UN Global Compact. Okay, so we have a lot of growing standards around the world that a lot of clients would like to refer, yeah, one or two standard in developing the report. Okay. More than that, we also recognize that there are some country regulations in ESG reporting. For example, Indonesia has a regulation called POJK 51, year 2017. It is a regulation issued by the Financial Service Authority in Indonesia about sustainable finance. Malaysia has sustainability reporting guide. The Singapore has SGX sustainability reporting guidelines. And in India, SEBI, the Stock Exchange Board India, has issued the business responsibility report, and also the Bangladesh, yeah, the Dhaka Stock Exchange has a sustainability reporting guidelines. So having this situation, yeah, we know that the opportunity is very big. We face with different clients, different needs, referring to different principles and standards and regulations in developing the report. And this is it becomes a big challenge for ESG as a global knowledge hub to set a certain mechanism, yeah, in developing capacity of the reporting professional. Yeah, so we can see that in overall, in general, we can say that the ESG reporting has three different approaches. First, a standard ESG reporting based on standard that emphasizes on self-identified materiality. It means that company has to define, has to conduct materiality testing to define its own materiality issues, and also based on the certain stakeholder engagement management practices. Okay, some companies would like to use certain standard that highlights particular materiality based on industry sector. So it is a predetermined materiality. SASB, yeah, use this kind of approach. Under SASB, every company can find a specific industry sector and also sub industry sector, which has indicators related to their own material topics. Okay, so some companies also some companies also develop sustainability report follow the regulation. So it is a regulatory basis only. Yeah, the challenge in this approach that we have to, we have to guide the clients that their report must explain their sustainability context, even it is a regulatory basis. Okay, so having these different approaches, we know that a professional writer has a big challenge. Professional writers must understand different concepts of ESG reporting standards and guidelines. Okay, now I would like to present a case in Indonesia. This is Dattatraya Indonesia facing in delivering assurance service. So right now we have the Financial Authority Organization regulation number 51, year 2017 on sustainable finance. So under this regulation, it is mandatory for financial service institution, the listed and public companies, to publish a sustainability report annually. So under this regulation, we have about almost 100, sorry, more than 100 commercial and Sharia banks must publish an annual sustainability report every year. Yeah, about almost 700 companies listed in Indonesia Stock Exchange or IDX. So they have an obligation to issue a sustainability report. When we talk about number of financial institutions in Indonesia, we can say more than 1,000 companies. Yeah, they need to issue and develop sustainability report every year. Okay, so more than that, we have a lot of potentials. We can say multinational companies, large national companies, government institutions, municipalities, for example, the cities, the provinces, yeah, or even universities. They are our potential clients in the future for sustainability reporting or integrated reporting. Okay. So the question is, who will support them in developing a sustainability report? In drafting a good sustainability report that can describe sustainability context of the company, that can present the achievement or commitment of the organization to the sustainable development or sustainability. Okay, so let's take a look at the Jakarta Stock Exchange. This is our small research as of September 2019, end of September. Yeah. Okay, so in Jakarta Stock Exchange, at the time we have about 649 companies. Okay, 25.27% is the trade, service, and investment companies. Yeah, the finance was about 13.87%, and others. Okay, you can see also the mining, the consumer goods, etc. Okay, so we have reviewed. Yeah, I don't know if some companies publish their sustainability report, but they do not claim, they do not state that, they did not state in the IDX. Okay, but for the year 2018 reporting period, which means that they published that in 2019, there are only about 58 sustainability reports of the companies listed in IDX. Yeah, and out of 58, only 16 reports were assured by independent parties, by the expert. Yeah, which means that the reports have independent assurance statement in the document. Okay, so more or less about 9-10% of the companies listed in IDX publish and claim that they have sustainability report. Okay, and out of 58%, out of 58 reports, only about 28% with assurance. Yeah. So what we can say about this number, number one is right now the companies. I know in 2020 the number is growing because we have the regulation POJK 51. Yeah, but what I would like to say that there is a huge demand in this area as a corporate reporting professionals. Hundreds of companies, they need to issue and develop a report, an ESG reporting. Yeah. So let me see. Yeah. Okay. So by sectors, most of them are from financial sector, financial industry sector. Yeah, we can say 40% from agriculture industry sector. Yeah, 12% of the sustainability report comes from the infrastructure, utilities, and transportation. Okay, so financial sector was leading in terms of publishing sustainability report in IDX. Okay, so how about Esarisha performance at the time? Okay, so out of 16 reports that have been issued, well, 38% of them was the Esarisha's clients, and we have about 7 other assurance providers serving the companies in IDX. Yeah. Okay. Now, I would like to share the challenges that are defined based on our experience. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. What are the challenges? What challenges for the writers is not all writers can identify the sustainability context of the clients. This is very important that a sustainability report must be able to describe sustainability context. Second, not all writers can understand reporting principles, standards, and indicators. And the corporate reporting writers nowadays have different roles. Not only writing the report, but also understand the context and guide the clients about how to adopt sustainability principles. This is something that very important. Okay, so another challenge is how to reduce the gaps between reporting and assurance practices, because when we do assurance practices, we refer to A1000. While in developing the report, they may not understand the A1000. Okay, so this is a very big gap. So what happened to the clients? The clients are suffering so much, to get a good writer, a nurturing writer, and they do not have information about where to get these professional writers and assurers. Okay, and clients are now in the process to learn how to design and implement social responsibility, regarding its context, and they also are learning about how to measure and communicate stability performance, and also implement stability governance. Now, Esarisha has the initiative to launch a global certification program. There are 2 levels, level 1 for the writer, level 2 for the assurer. Okay, so in each level, a person must complete 20 mandatory subjects and 6 elective subjects. So our examinations, consists of comprehensive exam, case writing exam, engagement in reporting project for the level 1, report analysis project for the level 2, and the exam to use of assurance tool for the level 2, and also presentation. Okay, so we have designed this certification program for non-experienced participant or for the experienced participant. We recognize that some people already do the stability report drafting. Yeah, they have number of projects in integrated report, for example. So we have designed the certification scheme to non-experienced and experienced participants. Okay, so we also have the membership scheme, to ensure that the certified writers are really doing projects and shaping their skills and knowledge in corporate reporting. Yeah. Okay, so a person who have passed the level 1 and becoming a level 1 membership, they can join the level 2 scheme. Yeah, and also we have the membership scheme, yeah, to ensure that the certified issuers uh, are those who uh, to ensure that the certified issuers can support the contingency, can support the companies in providing insurance services. Okay, yeah, these are some subjects of level 1. So our subjects are designed to shape the soft skills of the writers, core competencies to understand different standards and guidelines and indicators, including the country reporting regulation, and also the communication skills with the clients. And level 2, yeah, uh, our subjects are designed also to improve the analytical skills of the participants. Yeah, okay. So we also consider, I think this is the most important slides. Yeah, we also recognize that some people would like to join the certification program, but we consider also the financial constraint of people, because this certification program is designed at international level, but we consider that there are issues in terms of finance. Yeah. For example, for the non-experienced participant, if a person would like to get the certification and membership in very fast, of course, there must be some full price that must be paid. Yeah. So accomplish 26 credits, join all the exam. Yeah. And then at the next year, he or she can obtain the level 1 membership. But someone or people or a person who has no experience but would like to get membership, manage requirement for joining the exam is to accomplish all credits within 2 years. Yeah, so within 2 years. Yeah, not 1 year. Or writer, yeah, can enjoy the fast track mechanism with lower price. If he or she already has 3 projects, can join directly to the and pass the exam and get the. But if someone join this membership with no experience, yeah, reporting projects, for example, 2 projects in year 1 and 1 project in year 2, and then all in the exam, and then he or she can obtain the level 1 membership. It takes time, and then it is a self-learning approach, but that person can enjoy the lower price. Okay, so our program will start batch 1 in October 2020, and in March 2021 we will launch the batch 2. Okay, last slide. Why is ESG Global Certification Program? Because ESG is an international network, so everyone joining the program will have international exposure. We offer comprehensive subjects. Yeah, we have mandatory subjects and elective subjects. Okay, so the subject about the CFD is the elective subject. People also can get that subject, can join the class. Yeah, we accommodate local interest. One of the subject is the country regulation. So for example, the ESG program in Indonesia, we have the POJK 51 subject. While in India, we have the SEBI business responsibility report subject. Our exam methods Yeah, we have various exam methods: comprehensive exam, case writing, engage in the project, and presentation. We will provide professional account for the certified writers and assurers. Yeah, the certified professionals will have their account in our Esarisha Grade platform. Okay, we develop professional network, of course, based on our experience. We have experienced lecturers in writing and assurers. Yeah, we provide assurance tool for the certified assurer. We offer manageable scheme and price. Yeah, I have presented that. And now, last but not least, Esarisha program is supported by the advisory committee members from different countries, yeah, such as India, Bangladesh, Indonesia. We have people from Malaysia and also engage some experts from Australia, UK, and the Philippines. Okay, so in our program, we do not want to offer you know we offer a very good program. Of course, probably some will feel that it is not cheap, yeah, or some people would like to have a fast program. We can decide that it is your decision what your strategy is to engage with our certification program. Okay, thank you so much. You can call Miss Amira Putri of Esarisha Indonesia through the following email or mobile or WhatsApp. Okay, thank you so much. I will give the session back to Sumaya of Esarisha Bangladesh. Thank you.
Dr. Nandita, thank you so much for sharing insight on this program. So I think you have already touched upon the financial aspect of the program, which is very important. That means you have thought out that how to get out and get rid of the economic constraint if people are aspiring to become globally certified professionals or assurers. So that's a wonderful idea. So, but I mean, you have already said that you are starting this global certification program first batch, and I think that we are starting with Atma University in Jakarta.
Oh yes, yes, yes. Of course,
can you just throw some light that what is and how that is being starting off?
Yeah. Thank you, Birendra. Of course, we consider the financial constraint because all of us must deal with the new normal and the pandemic situation. The economy is very economy is slowing down. Yeah, but of course we have to be positive that after this pandemic is over, yeah, we have a big opportunities, especially in ESG reporting. Now, about our collaboration with Atmajaya University, Esarisha collaborate with Esarisha with Atmajaya University in conducting this program in Indonesia. Why? Because of course we need additional resources to run the program. Yeah, for example, the administrations, yeah, the infrastructure, etc. Yeah, development of modules, promotion, etc., and others. Yeah. Okay. Second, Atmajaya University is our good partners in Indonesia. In 2015, Atmajaya was one of the two universities supporting our international conference back in 2015. So we has a good relationship with Atmajaya, and we would like to maintain a relationship with them. Third, this is our ESG Global Certification Program is our international certification program. But in Indonesia, we have a particular regulation in doing this kind of certification, and we need to we need to translate our modules and our materials into certain competency unit based on the regulation set by the Indonesian government. And the good thing how to register the certification program following the Indonesian regulation is by collaborating with a university in Indonesia, because it is easier for us to register our program in Indonesia if we collaborate with a university. Yeah.
Dr. Danta, I still have 2-3 questions to ask you before you go, because we have, because of the paucity of time, but I still have to ask those questions, and if you can quickly respond to them. What kind of organizations are, backing up this program to be known as, a global certification program? Can you share what kind of organization, what kind of expert panel we have quickly, please? Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Virendra. Yeah. We have number of advisory committee members backing up this program. They come from different organizations. For example, from Malaysia and Philippines, we have a very knowledgeable lecturers, professors in sustainability. In Malaysia, we have our partner in environment. Yeah. In Indonesia, we get support from Trisakti Sustainability Center, Dr. Juni Gunawan. She is a very prominent expert in sustainability reporting, and the first expert with a PhD in sustainability reporting. Okay, so of course we engage with a number of people. For example, we discuss also this program with our JRI representative in Indonesia, yeah, and also from the UK, we have a support. We have one of our advisory committee members is a professor in sustainability, yeah, and of course we have support from Asia, from other country, from India, from Bangladesh. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, and also in Indonesia we engage with the Global Compact and the Indonesia Business Council for Sustainable Development. So it seems like we get everyone in this shape. Yeah.
Okay. Thank
yeah.
you so much.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Another quick question is that the digital architecture which you proposed for the benefit of the certified professionals and the companies, can you also please just highlight a bit on that? How does it work? How it facilitates the professionals and the companies for in a sense that this digital platform, as you have explained, helps a lot in managing environmental goals. I mean, the people can do a lot of work sitting distantly and using digital networks. So can you also please just explain to us, to our audience, how it works?
Okay. Well, our digital platform, we have started this since 2019, early 2019. In this digital platform, we provide information about our services, 3 types of services of ESR Asia in this digital platform. First is the assurance. Second is the certification. And we have some kind of index for the future. Yeah, we will launch this in the future. So we hope that the companies can get reliable, valid information about insurance services. Yeah, but for individuals, we expect that people can get information about certification, how to be corporate reporting professionals and insurers. Okay, so we will provide account, yeah, for the writers and insurers. They can sign in, yeah, by putting up this, filling up this their email and password, yeah. And for the writers, they can have their profile there. So company will understand. For example, they would like to get some professional writers with experience in oil and gas, for example, or with experience in developing report of mining companies, for example. So by doing this, we set some kind of a marketplace. Yeah, not a very large marketplace, but a very specific. Yeah, for the stakeholders who would like to engage in corporate reporting. Okay. Second, we also provide our assurance tool in this Exaresha Grade digital platform. So our certified insurers can sign in and they can.
We have issues, I believe, with Dr. Danta's voice.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, Dr. Danta, I have a very quick and last question, a query rather.
Yeah.
There are people who are asking that how much it will cost, and when you are opening at this program globally for global participants who aspire to be
Okay.
professionals. So you want to hide it or you want to share it?
Okay, let's try see how it works, and then we fix some weaknesses here and there, and most likely we will launch this internationally next year. Yeah. Okay. So how much does it cost?
Yeah, it's obvious
Including
that
trainings.
I think it's obvious that you don't want to share the cost right now, which is okay. All right. So,
yeah, but I mentioned the total cost. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, around $900 because right now the price is in rupiah. Yeah. So,
Okay.
but in total is around that. Yeah.
All right, Dr. Danta, thank you so much for sharing this new initiative of Sharisha to our global audiences, and hope this comes out as scheduled, as programmed. Yeah, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank
and
you.
efforts.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So now we are so happy to have already our next guest and expert, Dr. Dattatraya Kale. Sir, okay, you have to unmute, I believe.
Yeah,
yes.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. So there he is, Mr. Dattatraya Kale. He is Chief General Manager, RBI.
I have retired.
So we are very glad to have you here. Mr. Kale has a diversified work experience spanning over 33 years in key departments of the Reserve Bank of India. He was also head of internal audit and the risk assurance department in RBI. He also headed consumer education and protection department at RBI. He was also heading RBI committee on development of fixed interest rate loan products, member on the working group of RBI pricing of loans. And interestingly, he was also secretary Damodar committee on consumer service in bank. So Mr. Kale brings in lots of knowledge repository with him. This point in time when the entire world is facing this pandemic and finance happens to be the real crisis for the world to survive, it will be very, very interesting to hear from Mr. Kale that what his advice is for the people, how things are going to be, how things are from his perspective, from in the financial sectors. And I think I leave it to his wisdom, what known unknown he's going to share for us in the future. So Mr. Kale, welcome, and now floor is yours, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Birendraji. And it is a privilege to be addressing audience spread across geographies. And if I'm fast, kindly tell me, I'll slow down because the accent and the pronunciation could be problems if we have global audiences. So I'll try to keep it as slow as possible so that everyone is able to catch up. It is not just the act, but even the network speed matters. So is that fine, Birendra, with you?
It's perfect. It looks perfect now.
Okay, it is better. You're able to make out every word I speak.
Yes, very much. You
okay.
Can just
Good afternoon, friends.
Yeah, you can just tilt your slide. Yeah. It's good now.
Okay.
Yeah, better. Yeah.
Okay. Good afternoon, friends. The people who are spread out across far and wide, and not just in India, but elsewhere on the globe also. So as Dr. Birendra Atturi gave an introduction, I think when you're introduced in such a high profile way, the expectations also are aroused to a level where you may expect a heavenly kind of a discourse on things known unknown. So I'm basically a man from finance and financial risk management. And in financial risk management, we always talk of things in terms of known unknowns and unknown unknowns. Okay, so the known unknowns are basically things which the world at large knows, but I as an individual or a company as an entity may not be fully aware of the implications of that particular event or that particular happening. So that may fall in the category of known unknowns. But what are unknown unknowns? Unknown unknowns are things that we all of us would typically classify under the category act of God. Because we only know, some of us at least do believe that there's an entity called God. So that is not an unknown for many of us. But for some, even that may be an unknown, depending upon what is your strain of belief or atheist or anatheist, whatever you may be. There's an individual choice which everyone makes. So when we are looking at known and unknown things from a perspective of known unknowns and unknown unknowns, normally we tend to think and visualize situations in terms of, is there a reference to this particular kind of an event in the past or in history? So coming to the present times in terms of the COVID-19 pandemic that we are talking, was there a parallel in history? Okay, perhaps there was a parallel. There was a parallel in the second decade of the 20th century between 1918 and 1920, when we had the Spanish flu. And that Spanish flu, though it originated in Spain, the origins of that disease in Mumbai were traced to the people, the soldiers of the Indian Army returning from World War I duty. So when they return, and they typically return to the port city of Mumbai. So Mumbai had the pandemic, the Spanish flu, or then it was renamed as the Bombay influenza, which lasted from the month of June of 1918 to November. Lasted over 28 months. And the total casualties it took in India was about 16 million. There's 1.6 crore people, 16 million. And that was the highest for any country in the world in that pandemic. And that constituted 5% of India's population at that point in time. So think of 5% of population just being wiped out. And what are you going to be left with? And at that particular point in time, the people who died, all of them were in the age category of 25 to 45. And the life expectancy was just around 40 years. The average life expectancy was around 40 years. And the people who died were in the age frame of 25 to 40. 16 million people. So when you think of this, unknowns, what is it that has changed in terms of finance or in terms of people? What is it that has changed? Perhaps if we very, very crudely put it, between 1919 and 2020, I feel nothing has changed. We haven't achieved anything great. Because we are again back at the same square where we started from. And you find that everything else, the United Nations, the WHO, or whatever you call multilateralism, everything has become kind of a debating society, not being able to contribute to resolution of the problem. So we are as bad or as isolated as we were in 1920 and in 2020 as well. So we haven't gained much. And added to this, there's the other angle which we have to look at this is after the 1920 pandemic and after the end of the Second World War, there was this great idea of Karl Marx-led communist ideology of the command-driven economies being able to provide solutions for the welfare of the people. But that also did not last long. It just vanished in thin air between 1988 and 1991. And then come 1991 to 2008, 2009, you had this belief, market-led, competition-led economic intervention by the markets would deliver everything that the people would look for, including the welfare of the people. The classical free economics model championed by the US and supported by its Western allies. But come 2008 global financial crisis, even this kind of market-led intervention or competition-led market economics also failed. So what is best suited? Is it everything to be delivered by the government, or is it everything to be delivered by the markets? Where are we in terms of trying to find a solution for our problems? I think the solution to the problem is what Professor C.K. Prahlad of IIM Ahmedabad really referred to as the approach the bottom of the pyramid. Look at the grassroots. And when we start looking at the grassroots, what it tells you is try and look at everything being self-sufficient in terms of your ability to provide solutions and outcomes at the local level with the intervention of the local government. So what this reinforces is, let's not look at very huge things and huge architecture of institutional framework. Let's look at small things. Small may be ultimately beautiful. That is the prelude with which we start in terms of what happened between 1918 and 2020. So that is what has happened. Coming specifically to the world of finance, in the world of finance in 1918, 1920, that pandemic, financially, the world was a very, very poor place. Absolutely poor place, because most of the countries had been ravaged by war. And by the end of the Second World War, the world, except US, entire Europe was ravaged by war. The Soviet Union was ravaged by war. India was ravaged by war. Japan was ravaged by war. So there was poverty all around everything that surrounded us was poverty. And when today we look at poverty, we try to look at poverty in terms of ability of an individual to buy a given set of food articles that would give him 2000 or 2400 calories of food intake, equivalent of food intake, so that he or she is able to do work. Now, unfortunately, this pandemic that has come, it has also proven us wrong in terms of looking at poverty only from the monetary income point of view. And that is the reason why the United Nations in March, when the Secretary General issued the response statement to what the global action should be on the pandemic, he coined a new word, and that new word was ultra vulnerable. Now, till the time we had got everything ultra in terms of having a positive impact in terms of ultra luxurious, ultra rich, ultra super, and all that. From that, we have suddenly moved to a situation where we have ultra vulnerable. Now, are the ultra vulnerables all poor people? May not be, because ultra vulnerability may come on account of so many issues which may be perhaps which may not have been factored into as vulnerabilities till now by us. Because the one thing with human mind is we always believe in things continuing as they are. We always believe that yesterday it was like this, today it is going to be like this, tomorrow also it will be like this. We never look at changes coming in a apocalyptic fashion, but changes do come. Like in the Southeast Asian and the region where we all stay, till 2004 December, many of us just did not know what a tsunami was until it hit us. So when tsunami hit us, then suddenly everyone waking up, what does this really call for? What is the kind of response we should be launching? So going by that order, if we today look at the situation of the pandemic, it is like so many blind people trying to touch a huge body and trying to define it as an elephant. Now, if it is a blind person, he would be touching an object. How he or she would know that it is an elephant? Unless I have tried to give the characteristics and describe. So again, it is the vulnerability introduced onto the people who are challenged by us who are normal in every sense of the term. So here was a pandemic. The pandemic was a problem here, and all of us were touching it blind. And while touching it blind, we started off with the theory that it is a disaster. From that, we came down to a crisis. From that, now we are migrating to a state where we want to define it as a health issue. So primarily it was a health issue. But we, in our disbelief or belief, closed our eyes, and all of us acting blind, looked at a thing as a disaster, brought it down to a crisis, and now have brought it down to a health issue. And in the process, what has happened is we have loosened up on our precautionary stance that we had taken hitherto. Because everyone around us is tending to believe that he or she is going to be protected by what is becoming commonly known as the herd immunity. Now, the herd immunity also is a kind of what is called as the herd syndrome. In the markets, you have this herd syndrome. Everyone trying to jump onto the bandwagon. You have something happening in the marketplace. Everyone jumps onto that theory or that angle. And that's why you have the boom and bust approaches, or you have the swings, upswings or the downswings of a huge order, which do not conform to anything that is happening on the ground in terms of real world economics or real world finance. So when we look at the pandemic as is being reported, there are shades of it. There is the market version of what this pandemic is. There is a journalist version of what this pandemic is. There is a politician's version of what this pandemic is. There is the society's version of what this pandemic is. But at the center of it is the individual. So whose version should he believe? Because the markets are tending to believe as if And last 6 months, they have been believing that there is a remedy available, there is a cure available. And 6 months down the line, you still realize you are saying another 2 months, another 2 months, another 2 months. And globally, around the corner, all the markets have been rallying. Gold has been rallying, all the stock markets have been rallying. So when you have this kind of a situation, you tend to ask, what is it that is forcing these things in the financial markets? What are these unknowns? These are known unknowns or unknown unknowns? I mean, the vaccine trial, the vaccine successfully coming through is a unknown unknown. You don't know. And the second unknown unknown in this particular pandemic is the intergenerational shift of crisis from one generation to the next. Because till now we have been believing that, look at the contradictions. There's no medicine available. And each country is reporting to WHO, so many people cured. So when you have no medicine available and you're reporting so many millions of people cured, how did it happen? How did it happen? So was it not a natural case of people getting better by their own systems or by their own immunities? So there's something we have to get proper in terms of letting people know what the problem is. And the problem is, we've been concentrating on urbanized and highly congregated population sectors. Take the case of India, we have 600,000 plus villages. So my own simple thing is, if all these villages had just a facility of 10 beds per village, you would still have had 6 million beds for patients across the country. And today we are trying to create health infrastructure, which was abysmally low till date. And when you're trying to create this infrastructure, and when you're trying to look at the financial packages that are being given out by the governments, by the central bankers, the next question that logically would come is, who is going to bear the cost of this? Because someday or the other, these are going to be unwound. The unwinding of these incentives, these fiscal packages, these stimulus packages is going to start. And when they start, who is going to bear the brunt of it? Is it again the ultra vulnerable and the people who are at the margin and who are at the edge who are going to bear the brunt of the unwind process of the fiscal stimulus and the financial package? Or is it going to be an intergenerational shift of liabilities that I'm into the 60s, that I'm living a debt burden for my next generation? So when we look at these kind of situations that come to us, 4 or 5 things that predominantly need to be looked at in terms of the pandemic and its resolution or implications for us in terms of finances, in terms of financial risk management, are five basic things. The first is places. Now, what places are safe? Today, you ask this question, what places are safe? And when you say places, places include right from your home, your bedroom, to every other place which you use in your daily life for social interaction, for official interaction, for commercial interaction, every place. Just now, Dr. Birendra was speaking to the earlier speaker. He was asking the marketplace. Now, there's no concept called a marketplace where 2 people with diametrically opposite views meet. There is a market created. That is the way the markets happen. So, like, take the simple case of share market. If somebody feels a particular stock is overvalued at a price, he is willing to sell and he finds a buyer, it means there is somebody who believes that it is still undervalued. So people with 2 opposite and exactly differing views, when they come together, that's where the market is formed. So that is a place. The other important aspect in terms of the place is what is going to happen to all the essential things that build the infrastructure for the future. The places typically are the schools and the hospitals, where our Gen Next is going to be trained, skilled, upskilled, and reskilled to look at facing the challenges posed by this pandemic. And when you have the schools and colleges and learning institutions and skill building institutions shut off for such a long time, and you say everything is going to be provided in a digitized online platform, typically the learning experience is lost out, because when we go to these learning institutions or skill building institutions, we just don't learn what is being taught. We also learn from fellow trainees and fellow students. So that social interaction is being lost out, which also develops in the, especially of smaller children. You look at the principles of pedagogy. If the children lose out on this interaction, how are they going to make good? And some children who are otherwise, who are very tiny tots, who are otherwise averse to going to school, if they find that there's a lot of comfort in the lap of the mother, it may be that much more difficult for the child to be taken to school at a later date. So from the point of view of risk management, there are a lot of debate in various countries on using the for holding your data, because there was the issues of sovereignty. The cloud is located over the sky of which country? Do you have access to that? Come on, today a situation has come. The cloud, your data may be at a place due to the cloud issue or not migrated cloud. It may be at a place, your disaster recovery site or your business continuity plan may be at a place where the pandemic has hit and that particular area has been declared as a containment zone. So should a disaster occur, how are you going to carry on your business operations and how are you going to plan your disaster recovery? So the place becomes a different entity altogether. And place from the economic point of view, there are many countries on the face of this earth which rely on tourism as a mainstay of their economic growth, their growth engines. So if these places are going to be affected by the pandemic, or the tourists that come to those places are from the origins where the pandemic has been on the very, very high, what is going to happen to these economies? Typically, take the case of Maldives, take the case of Thailand, take the case of Nepal, take the case of Greece. Well-developed, very robust industry in terms of the instrumentation, very classy, super specialist instrumentation, the watches, and of course the cheese and the cake. But the cheese and the cake will get sold only when the tourists go there. So the places becomes an important thing. Second is the persons. See, when you look at the persons, there are persons we interact with every time.
If I can, because there are some questions also coming in. You have touched upon a very, very pertinent social issues. I understand, and more than that, it is it's about the human behavior and the human belief system. When you said that the places, you know, where now, which place is safe? For example, you know, I mean, we feel safe at our home. And we also go to temple, mosque, church, you know, for taking blessing and to be blessed.
Yeah.
So, and I think this pandemic, we have seen that even the temple, churches, and, you know, the mosque were also closed down for people to go and pray.
Yeah.
What do you think, you know, the this will have a consequence on social aspects, on the belief system? Will it really, you know, weaken our belief system on, you know, the power of God, or what? I mean, do you have? I mean,
no.
It's a very philosophical question, but I still, you know.
Okay, we'll touch upon that. Dr. Birendra, very nice of you to have asked this question. The point is, the belief in the God Almighty has not been diluted, because I can give you by example. I stay in Mumbai, very near the famous Siddhivinayak temple. I stay very near there, and invariably, though, every morning you have loads of people passing through that road by car for work with their mask on, with their gloves on. And when you just pass the temple, each car just stopping by for a few seconds, and people getting off the car, folding their hands, praying, and moving forward. This I have seen in front of the mosques, in front of the churches, in front of the Jain derasars and gurudwaras, everywhere. So what has perhaps happened is the social interaction that was happening at these congregations, that has been lost. And those social congregations were providing the sense of social security and safety. So that was an important aspect of social safety net when you are congregated. And especially when we looked at this pandemic, we started off with the assumption that this was a disaster, this was a crisis, and now we have come to defining it as a health issue. And mind you, every disaster management theory always tells you you have to be around, you have to be together. But this we defined as a disaster, and we asked the people to be away. So you can never be fighting a disaster in that fashion. I hope I have answered your question, because the people's faith in the Almighty is absolute. And they see it in every other living thing, every other living being. They say God, they see God. Okay, so that was about places. Now coming to people. See, people who have transactions with people, who have interactions with people. But there are two sets of things, values that we always use in terms of interacting with people. One is the emotional relationship and the other is the transaction relationship. Today, because of this pandemic, perhaps all our emotional relationships have given way to transaction relationships. And all transaction relationships have gained the place of emotional relationship. Transaction relationship as in the sense, the person who supplies you milk, the person who supplies you vegetables, the person who comes to your house for the cleaning. Now, when that particular person comes, what you are only doing is looking at his hands, looking at his face, whether he's wearing the mask, whether he's wearing the gloves. And then if there are sky-rise buildings, whether there are tissues kept for him to use when he opens the lift door, and whether there's a sanitizer kept. So all these are kind of coming in as a new normal, which was not a normal behavior. It was a transaction behavior. Look at the earlier situation. He would come, ring the bell, leave the bags of milk at your door and go away. But today when he rings the bell, you personally want to stand there and see that he has properly come in a way that you feel secure. And when you have your own people, like I have my parents, there are so many other people having the older parents at home and, oh, don't go out. Now, think of a child, think of an old person not being asked to step out, and about 5 or 6 people living in a 500 or 600 square feet or 50 or 60 square meter area. What kind of an impact it is going to have on the psyche of the person? So when we look at people interactions, the people then look at old age people, look at people in whose houses you have the physically challenged persons, or you have people with different abilities, you have sports persons, or you have tiny toddlers. And in a huge country like India and even our other Asian neighboring countries, you have the problem of this tribes, the original people who inherited that place or that part of the earth. Like we have those tribes in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, we have them in the Nilgiris. We don't know what is happening to them because they have been cut off from the human race. And we just know how this pandemic has impacted them. And coming to the other part of the people relationships is today we are looking at all the figures in terms of the pandemic, so many people. But have we tried to find out how many people have been deprived of their basic treatment because most of the hospitals were converted to COVID hospitals? I mean, so there is a kind of a problem we are creating for the future because there may be some cases which may not wait. And the other point is when you go there, the doctor first is going to test you for COVID, then start the treatment on you. I mean, the classic cases of that of our late former president, Dr. Pranab Mukherjee. He went to the Army Research and Referral Hospital for getting a clot in his brain treated, removed surgically. So when he went there, he was first treated for COVID, tested for COVID, and they found him to be positive. So if there is a medicine that is not available for treating this, What you are going to do is only try to put it in terms of what you know and then perform the surgery. So people are going to be facing danger. People are going to be facing a problem. So that is in terms of the people. The third things that we always face is in terms of the products. What are the products that we use? Everything today we say, do this way, do this way. Everything that we want, get it delivered at the doorstep. And today we do realize that ultimately for living happily, we never required so many things that we were into buying. So there was a lot of ego cost that was being added to our living, which was never required. So we looked at the places, we looked at the people, we looked at the products. Then the next thing what we are going to look at is the processes. What processes we undergo. Now, the process that we undergo is the social transformation process, the hygienic transformation process, and the economic transformation process. Now, hygienic transformation process, it is, I mean, really look at our traditional systems. In India, every household, you were taught as the basic values. If at all, and as and when you come out from a walk outside or a tour outside, the first thing you do is remove your shoes, go wash your feet, wash your hands, and then come to the main house after you have entered the main door. That was the education given to us. That was the value system. That was the good virtues that we were blessed with and we were trained with. But today, this has taken a scientific way in terms of hygiene being given the priority. Wash your hands and wash your hands with sanitizers and soap. Now, nobody has perhaps told people what is going to be the impact of washing the hands with sanitizer 20 times a day. How it is going to impact your hands, skin, and is it going to become kind of a snob value with you? You keep on washing your hands 20 times a day, 20 seconds at least. Same thing with the mask. You are always told, you were taught the etiquettes of sneezing, coughing, to put your hand on your mouth if you're going to cough, to look the other way if you're facing the crowd. If you're sneezing, bend downwards, cover your nose with the hand, and then look the other way and sneeze. These were the virtues that were taught as a part of the upbringing process. So now these are being reinforced as a medical necessity. And then look at the mask. So the point is everyone is wearing a mask. But how hygienic is the mask? I'm just satisfied looking at the person coming to my house wearing a mask. But I have never tried to find out whether that person is washing that mask regularly, whether he's disposing it off regularly. Because the mask also has a utility time. It can be useful only for a particular given period of time, 25 days, 30 days, or whatever is the time frame. So these are the processes that have undergone a change. Then the other important processes that have undergone a change is in the financial world, trying to do everything digitally. Now, the problem is for the older persons, even if they are literate and literate even digitally, to do everything within the given time frame, like typically you log into your bank account. By the time you log in, it says get your OTP, punch it in, you'll get a new message saying your session is timed out. Because you're not able to do it with the same speed which is expected of a young man. And the machine doesn't distinguish between a person who is 70 years old and a 17-year-old. For them, the machine applies the same speed. So if you're not able to do it in 60 seconds, you're timed out. So that is a part of this. So there is a digital challenge, and I'm very happy that the World Economic Forum Davos has brought out a very good paper on what are going to be the digital trust challenges when you're going to get the big reboot, the big restart for the entire economy, the world economy as a whole. When the big reset and restart is going to come, what are going to be the challenges of the digital media from the trust point of view? Because today nobody has been asked to go out, nobody is able to go out. We don't know whether everything is safe, my data is safe, my privacy has not been compromised, and my financial transactions have been put through in a hassle-free and a truly safe manner. Come the unwinding of this lockdown and reopening of the entire processes in the normal way, maybe we may end up with a huge number of complaints from the people, from the users of the financial systems, saying, I had a problem with my banker, I had a problem with my particular financial services provider. And then the next point that's going to come is the prices. When you're looking at these kind of situations, what is the fair price for a given product? Can we say what is a fair price? What is a reasonable price? We just tend to put everything in terms of the market price. And when the market itself is not in a perfect, there is this theory of perfect market and perfect competition, but that never exists. It exists only in books because the markets are never perfect. And that is the reason there's always the possibility of each market getting rigged, because there are the selfish people everywhere. That's a human tendency. There are selfish people everywhere. So there is a tendency to cartelize. Now, who knows, suddenly some part of the globe, you may get a situation where they may say there was a nexus between the clinics and the labs, saying, okay, you report as many positive cases as possible so that they'll come to us for treatment. Going forward, that may come out as a big scam. I mean, who knows? Because we have been used to this kind of commission-led or market-led, white-collar-led profiteering and profit-making without much hard work being involved in it. So when we look at places, we look at people, we look at processes, we look at products, and we look at prices. When you look at all these 5 things, then you try to ask, what is it that the government is doing? What is it that the regulators are doing? See, the regulator is also as ignorant or as unknown to the situation or in the same situation as you and me are. But he has got to be seen as doing something to provide the much needed comfort to the market, saying, okay, the people are not going to be after you, forcing you to repay or forcing you to pay back. So we are telling the banks not to chase you for recovery of the loans or recovery of your credit card dues for 5 months or 6 months. Okay, the regulator can do that. But what happens 5 months after that? Because we are all going to be hit by the new normal. And in the new normal, are we all going to be in the same way working and making money, earning a living, the way we have been doing hitherto? And in this context, the division between the informal sources, the informal sectors and the formal sectors, it becomes very, very pronounced. Because we always have this lip sympathy saying it's the informal sector that contributes a huge sum of money to the economy, to the share in the GDP, gross domestic product and all that. But what is the concept of social safety nets? Perhaps we have tried to look at social safety nets from the monetary safety being provided. But is it the end of social safety net? Because we have to go beyond finance to look at providing social safety nets in terms of safety of people's lives and what happens to their earning capabilities. Because today, in a classy situation like in India, you have got about every household having a maid servant, every middle class. Now, the maid servant has stopped coming because his or her area was affected by the pandemic. They were in the containment zone. Even if he or she were to come back, the domestic help were to come back to work, the first question the employer is going to ask is, was this person affected by COVID? Was somebody in her or his house affected by COVID? Can I employ him or her? So perhaps that is not the way going forward. That's not the way to solve the problem coming out of this pandemic. So sustainability issues are going to be there for the people who are on the margins. And there are going to be huge sustainability issues. And the other so-called well-to-do classes also, so most of them may say, okay, you're not going to get your incentive or the variable pay or the bonuses. They're all being checked out this year. You're not going to get anything. So when I'm not going to get anything of this, what is going to happen to my social consumption? See, in a country like India, or for that matter, most of the Asian countries, a huge part of economic activity is driven by social consumption. So if the social consumption is not going to happen, what is it that am I going to be doing to revive that particular sector? Take a simple case of a wedding. Who is it that benefits in a wedding other than the bride and the groom? Of course, it is mostly the people who are there in the service providing companies who attend to everything else other than acting as officiating priests or officiating preachers at the wedding. They provide everything. They are there providing the food, arranging the tables, decorating the pandals, decorating the shamianas. They are there everywhere. So these marginalized sections, which were the biggest beneficiaries of the social consumption, they are going to be very, very hard hit. And when this comes back, people are going to ask the question, should we be doing this at all? Why not the new way is a better way? Perhaps there's a better way of doing things. So why should we be spending so much of money? And when the person who can afford to spend money does not spend that money, what finally happens is you have a situation where the haves become much more better off and the have-nots become that much more worse off. So there's no equilibrium that is going to be sought between the two, which was otherwise a social function or a social economic function that was being catered to by the happenings in the society. For all these things, the government, the regulator, the individual, the society, I think what is best looked at is the famous work by Nobel laureate Dr. Daniel Kahneman, where he said thinking fast and thinking slow, where he said every individual, every society, every government has two tracks of thinking. Each one of us thinks in track 1 and track 2. Track 1 is where you think fast. So it is not that he says everyone is a fast thinker or there are only few people who are slow thinkers. No, he says in each one of us, there is a slow thinker and there is a fast thinker. And there are situations where we normally think fast and we jump to conclusions. We become judgmental. And there are situations where we think slow and take our time in responding. So we have got to sit up and look at, is it a situation calling for thinking fast, thinking slow? Or are we applying the thinking fast process for a pandemic that really actually required thinking slow, analyzing it bit by bit and putting the corrective measures? And the corrective measures are in terms of preventive only. We can only prevent it from happening. We cannot go much more other than availability of a medicine. And even when the availability of medicine does happen, I have my reservations in terms of the intergenerational transfers. Like when Hiroshima and Nagasaki were bombed, little did the Americans realize that 35 years down the line also, the Gen Next is going to be impacted by the radiation left behind by those atomic bombs that were dropped on those two cities. Same thing happened to Chernobyl disaster. Same thing happened to Fukushima in 2011 when the nuclear plant there started emitting radiation. So even if this pandemic happens, we are able to find a cure. What is going to happen to the people once they recover, or what is going to happen to the Gen Next that is going to be given birth to by a lady who has, say, suffered from this pandemic? Is the baby going to be normal? Is the baby going to have any issues with physical health, mental health, or other issues? So we are sitting on a huge unknown, as I said, and all of us blindly are touching something huge and trying to define it as an elephant, which may not be an elephant. So that's about it. Any questions? I'm game for that.
Quickly, I think we still, for the benefit of my audiences, one thing which we would like to know that how in the given scenario where you have really got into so detailed of the pandemic and the situation in the past and the future ahead, what do you think, and are there some, since you come from that background, I'm very tempted to ask you that what are the various central bank of different countries taking some intervention? Maybe one or two quickly, if you can say that maybe this particular country, this particular financial institution has some some good remedies for the time being, because as you said, there's a lot of uncertainty ahead. But still, from your own perspective, what do you think? What is going right, at least to drive the business perspective, because there are people here also who are from the business side, so they would like to know that what are the good rollouts, what are the bad rollouts, what are the silences. So maybe can you throw some light on that, please?
Oh, surely. I'll try and touch upon that in the way I understand it, or to the extent possible, I am able to answer that particular question.
Yeah.
So from the business point of view, before the pandemic itself, for the last 2 years, we have been talking of Industrial Revolution 4, IR4. Everyone has been talking of that. So if you try to combine that Industrial Revolution 4 with what is going to happen in the pandemic, you may have a situation where what was contemplated in the Industrial Revolution 4 concept may become a reality much sooner than anticipated, like a manufacturing unit. You got the concept of what are going to be known as the dark factories. The dark factories are absolutely robotic driven, fully automated manufacturing plants that will have no human intervention at any phase or any stage of their working. Now, business-wise, a wonderful thing. My business continues. But socially, is it beneficial? Or is it beneficial politically? Because the point is, each country has come out with a solution. It is just not the central bankers, it is the governments, the fiscal and the monetary mix, which has both come together, which have tried to put in a solution. And the belief is, okay, right now people are starved of their incomes. So let's put money in the hands of the people. And when you put money in the hands of the people, you're taking care of the very basic needs. But there's also a lot of other money that has been put aside for the recovery purposes that is finding its way to the market. And because there's nothing else happening, finally, my own feeling is this money is what is supporting the huge rallies in the stock market. All these monies that have been put as a part of the stimulus packages, they are finally somehow finding their way to the stock market and the capital markets. And that's how the markets are getting supported. And when the stock market or those kind of activities get supported, it is not the very poor and the ultra vulnerables who get benefited. It is the haves who get benefited. It's the people who have invested who get benefited. And that trickle down effect to have an impact on the very marginalized and lower sections of the society is a very challenging and daunting task, which rarely happens. It's very, very difficult to happen. So given a situation, almost all the countries have looked at the problem with a view to ensure that there is no political damage to their credibility, there is political expediency, and there is no situation of a civil war kind of a street breakout where people would come to the streets for things that are very, very basic. And one good thing that has also happened is we looked at from 1990 onwards, when the WTO came into existence, we looked at the world trade and migration of labor, migration of capital in a very, very positive way, without ever thinking that there could also be a migration of a pandemic. But till now, we had been only focusing on migration of labor, migration of capital. The money has gone back. The people have gone back, but people have gone back sick. And now in the new normal, what is it that the new normal going to force upon two kind of situations? So one is, I have work, but I have no people to do the work. I have people, but I have no work to give them. So are these two sets of economies going to come together and say, we will send the work to you, or you send your people to us to do the work? What is going to happen? What is going to be the outcome of this? Because when you look at all these things that is happening, when till now we're looking at outsourcing as one of the leading event, what's the innovation of the 21st century. But when you look at the pandemic happening, even the outsourcing, enforcing the outsourcing and looking at the fact that the outsourcing doesn't spread a pandemic or disease to the people who are doing the work for you, that becomes an added responsibility of the country or the society to whom you have outsourced the work. So it is just not that you're asking somebody in Bangladesh to do the manufacturing of garments, but you also need to ensure that that particular facility and that unit is able to provide hygienic and foolproof kind of systems for its people, the people who work there, and they don't get endangered while executing the outsourced jobs. And the other part of it, when you ask the business, there are a lot of people who are saying work from home is a new normal. Let me ask a simple question. When you say work from home, I was taught in my college days and my management institute days that never take your home to the office and never bring your office to your home. That is a worldly wisdom which I was taught. And now when you have the office coming to your home, what is going to be happening to the psyche of your home? Is your home really equipped to be the office? Have you created that kind of an environment or the infrastructure to make your home an office? And secondly, what was hitherto an office which was exposed to risks, vulnerabilities of, say, attacks on the networks? Today, if somebody knows that I'm an important person in this organization doing work from home, what is the chance that my network would not be attacked? What is the chance that my own computer facilities, my own infrastructure, my own Wi-Fi would not be get crashed into and my security and safety and privacy compromised? So these are the problems that are going to be faced by us. And secondly, what is going to see, you always had this concept of place of business where this particular accident happened. You needed an address to report that particular mishap, to report that particular accident. Now, if some mishap happens, where are you going to report the place of mishap to be? And in more cases than one, another is going to come on the person who was doing the work from home, saying you compromised on the safety and security while executing the particular operation. So we are making the individual more vulnerable. Instead of making him more...
I have just 2 minutes left, but I still would like to, spare 1 minute because this is a very pertinent one. You have already covered in detail that, it's going to impact us socially, emotionally, and all. Now, since this entire discussion is on those environmental social governances, what do you think the business community would think the profit first, or they would still take good learning, lasting learning that we really need to think of environment as our social responsibility? Quickly, if you can just, please cover that in a minute.
Oh, yeah, Dr. Birendra, thank you so much. Let me tell you, it is me, my environment, and my sustainability and sustenance first. If the profits are there, if I am susceptible to the pandemic, so also is the businessman. Everyone else around me and my social setup is susceptible. So if I don't survive, if I don't sustain, if I'm not able to handle myself by managing the environment and ecosystem, my business is doomed. And if all the people around me are doomed, where from am I going to make the profit? So I got to work with the concept of flowback. I got to flow it back into the society to be able to generate more income for myself for the future. This is a golden egg laying chick. I cannot kill it in one go in the hope, belief that I'm going to get 100 golden eggs by killing the chick in one go.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Kale. This was really deep insights and covering almost all aspects of human life, I would say, environment, society, past and future, and really take us through with that route. It was very, very exciting and I am sure that it was a lot of learning for all our audiences. So I thank you so much for being with us and sharing your, the domain experts and your insights onto this. Once again, thank you so much on behalf of Yasarisha. I thank you so much for joining us.
Okay. Do my fellow panelists have anything to say? I mean, on whatever I said, or if just quick, if feedback, that will always be very encouraging. I mean,
it was
All
really
right.
wonderful listening to you. I joined a little bit late, but I think I've not missed much. So it was really wonderful listening to you.
So that's it. That's it. So I think it was wonderful. Thank you so much. So we move to the next round of.
Birendraji, if you can just send the YouTube link to this particular, so I can share it with my friends and acquaintances.
Sure, sir. Thank you. We would.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us. So here we are. Now we have a next panel, and the discussion would be on the importance of global reporting framework for climate disclosure. And there we have our panelist. We have Mardi. Thank you so much for being on time, and I think thank you for being with us, accepting our invitations to share your phenomenal understanding on the subjects. So I am just reading out a brief of Miss Mardi. She is an influencer in UK on climate disclosure and climate disclosure standards. She's a very dynamic, energetic, and highly motivated individual, passionate about securing a sustainable future for all. So we need her all the time. She is equipped with the comprehensive knowledge of climate, environment, ESG policies, regulation globally. Mardi is playing the role as the Managing Director, Climate Disclosure Standard Board UK. Her influence begins at C-suites and at government level, contributing energy and purpose that influence business sustainability, competitiveness, accountability, transparency, and campaigns objectives. She is an excellent project manager and communicator at all levels and across a range of media, who has a proven track record of building and resourcing successful not-for-profit public-private partnership and delivering campaign and project organizational objective. So we are very glad to have you here, Mardi, and this is now back to you. Please share your thoughts.
Thank you very much for the very kind introduction, and I'm delighted to be sitting here on this last panel with my colleagues from the IIRC and GRI. Being on the GRI Stakeholder Council and on the IIRC Council, I feel quite privileged to have such an in-depth knowledge on many of the organisations in this space. So I'm just going to share my screen with you quickly. Oh, not that one, this one. And hopefully we can kick off. Okay, so I have a few slides today to help guide us along. I will, unfortunately I have no elephant or golden egg analogies today, but I'll try and think up some on the go. And I also do talk very quickly. I am a passionate Australian that relocated to London some time ago. So if at any point I get carried away, please do stop me, raise your hand, say slow down, slow down. We can't keep up, and I'll promise I'll do my best. So today I'm talking about the CDSB's role in the global framework, the global setting for climate reporting and disclosure. So I'll start off with a quick sort of a bit about CDSB for those that don't know us, and then I will go on into a bit more about the framework and what else is going on in the market that will link nicely on to my fellow panelists' presentations around GRI and the IIRC. So first of all, CDSB, who are we? What do we do? Why are we here? And how do we help companies think about considering their resilience to not just climate and environmental issues, but well beyond into social issues, which could apply to the COVID world we're in now and issuers reporting in that space. So CDSB was set up in 2007 at the World Economic Forum in Davos by a consortium of 9 business and environmental NGOs who are on the bottom of the screen here. These organizations still form our board today. And the mission was to create an organization or a framework that could fill an important gap in the market, which was a framework very, very similar to an international accounting standard to help companies report decision useful. And back in 2007, it was climate only, but later we evolved to environmental information to capital markets by the mainstream corporate report or the annual reporting communication to investors. We are also lucky enough to be supported by an insanely talented group of individuals from across the world. In total, we have just under 60 that support us on thinking through the development of our framework and the tools and resources that we build to help move this agenda along globally. We first, we were set up in 2007. People weren't talking about putting climate in mainstream financial reports in 2007 unless it was linked to carbon trading, because that would and carbon price, because that would have had an impact on your financial accounts. And at that time, we also had, if you think back to 2007, the unfortunate financial crisis as well. And this was just when the IIRC was about to release its interpretive guidance. It's called IFRIC 3 on carbon accounting, and it got scrapped and has never come back, sadly. So CDSB was filling that very important gap, which was how to put the financial impacts of climate change, whether that be positive or negative, there's opportunities from climate change, into the mainstream filings so that it could be looked at by investors. So this group here have helped us with some of that forward-looking thought leadership and support that you need when you're breaking down new territory and barriers. So as I sort of alluded to, a lot of our focus of our work is around the framework, which is, in short, the how-to and what does it look like. So it's a principles and requirements-based framework, very similar to others such as the IIRC and others that are out there. Funny enough, this framework and the IIRC framework were written by the same 2 people. And that same person, one of those same people, also wrote the first CDP disclosure request. So there's it's quite evident there is a lot of similarities and common threads and complementarity to these frameworks as well as we move along. So we sort the principles and requirements of the how and the what to report. For those of you familiar with corporate governance requirements, a lot of the language is the same there. A lot of the language is the same as you would see in the conceptual framework of the IISB as well. So we were launched, the framework on climate was launched in 2011 at the infamous Copenhagen COP. That was not very successful, although our framework, I'd like to say, has had a better life. And we expanded to cover environmental information and natural capital in May 2015. And so it was launched then. And that was by a few drivers. So some of that was, if you think back to 2015, you would have had the IIRC's framework recently released the year before, I think. And we sought out to provide sort of operational support for how to report on the natural capital pillar of the integrated reporting framework. We also were working with the Natural Capital Coalition, so we wanted to provide that framework that helped take their decision useful internal information and report it in a useful way to capital markets. There was a huge growing interest in environment and nature-related issues and biodiversity starting to bubble away under the surface, and recognition that they were equally as important. And then I went to a policy meeting in Brussels with EU officials one day, very, very senior ones, and they said to me, Mardi, could you expand this to cover all of environmental information, the E of ESG? Because quite frankly, climate just doesn't cut it anymore. We need to go bolder and faster. So I went, okay, off I go. And we went and did it. So in fact, it has satisfied support for reporting in all different ways now, including the non-financial reporting directive in Europe because of that, and helping moved along lots of other people's thinking and reporting in the environmental space. and like I said, this is not just about the narrative reporting at the front of an annual report. That's interesting, but the key bit for us is the connection through to the financials in the back. If you have a good news story to tell or a bad news story to tell, you should be able to also see that in assumptions and the numbers. So we've still got a way to go there, but steps are being made. So the CDSB framework, CDSB sounds like the IIRC, just as a quick recap for good reason. We were set up to kind of look like them and sound like them and be a bit like them because they hadn't gone this far yet. So making them comfortable with what was going on in the market, comfortable that this is actually just business as usual. Like CDSB's framework is not another framework to report against. It's not a standalone report, as you may have a GRI or a CDP response. This CDSB's framework is in place to help companies do what they're supposed to do already, which is report risk and opportunity to capital markets via the financial report. And because we acknowledge that climate and social issues and environmental issues are financially material, but the current sort of infrastructure doesn't and ISB standards doesn't kind of lend itself to helping you do that as easily. We've just provided this framework to help you do what you're already supposed to do. So this shouldn't be seen as a burden. It should be seen as a helpful tool and resource to help you do what you're legally already supposed to do. And I can't stress that enough. We go through a rigorous standing setting process, very similar to my colleagues on the panel with me now, mirroring the IASB process and due diligence, so 3 months exposure drafts, committees to sign up, all that kind of thing. And last check, we had over 455 companies referring to the framework in the annual report. Now, they don't have to refer to our framework. It's not a comply, it's not one of those things you have to say you've used it. But when we can track them down through various means and Google searches, we tend to do counts every now and again. So if you happen to be using it, let me know, because I'd love to talk about it. So the sort of key topics that the framework does cover are sort of the natural capital dependencies, impacts, risk policies, performance, as you would expect for any sort of risk and opportunity and resilience related reporting. And if you think about how this works in practice, people say to me, where do I get my data from? Or how do I use the other frameworks? And how does it all fit together? You can collect, and I'll just use this as one example, but there are many. You may do CDP and take some of your CDP data out, use the CDSB framework to put it in your annual report. You may collect it by your GRI, sustainability materiality process, and collect it that way, perform the due diligence and rigor on it to make sure it's got the same quality as financial information and pop it through CDSB's framework. And SASB's metrics, for example, plug really well into CDSB's framework. So CDSB's framework is about SASB's framework has about 2 sentences of what's in CDSB's framework. So SASB is about metrics and targets. So by applying CDSB's framework to that, you get a much more comprehensive reporting piece going through to the mainstream filings. So these things all kind of work together well, but can be used as part of a system to communicate better with investors and capital markets and regulators and others that want to read annual reports as well. So recently, we've also released, and this is back to, how do I do it? And I'll probably touch on that. How do I do it? What does it look like? I'm sure the others will agree with me that the 2 questions we get asked most in the CDSB Secretariat: tell me someone who's doing it. Can I see what it looks like? How do I do it? Where do I get started? Like, where do I put pen to paper first? So we're really trying to help companies and issuers and others that want to get engaged, private sector companies even, go about doing this. So we have our framework, and we've just launched an application guidance series, which is funded by the European Commission. And we've already launched one on climate, which is very helpful for TCFD adoption as well. There's a water one being released at the start of next year, which will undergo global exposure from November to January, which is really exciting. We've got we've got 68 experts working on that globally to make sure that we can really provide. I think water as an issue feels a bit like a poor cousin to climate, even though they're very closely linked. So this is to really help apply the TCFD, the Task Force for Climate-Related Financial Disclosures, that Padda's touched on earlier. Apply that thinking, that same framework to climate change, to water, and produce guidance to do that. We have land use and biodiversity guidance coming up, some on materiality, all that kind of stuff. So really it's along the ISB's model of just interpretive guidance to kind of match it out. So who uses it, right? You're going to ask me that yet, because I've sort of alluded to that. So who uses it? the sort of companies that are using it are a very, very diverse mix from all over the world. The five highest countries using the framework are the UK, the US, Japan, South Korea, and France. But then Australia and South Africa and others fall very closely behind. So there's a nice sort of global mix of people leading the way and experimenting with the framework to see how it can be useful for them. And if from a sort of an Asian context, here's just a few examples of those that have got involved. And some of the Japanese and South Korean adoption has been led by pilot projects we've run there with the British government support over the last 5 years. So really helping companies think about this, and some of it's linked to TCFD and work we've done there as well. So there's a few local ones for you to consider having a look at their reporting today if you are interested in what they're doing in this space. And the framework, naturally, like my friends on the panel, the stock exchanges around the world reference it for compliance with SRF, sustainability related reporting to their markets. And again, it's a huge broad sweep, everything from Japan, Malaysia, Australia, right through to London, New York, and down to Santiago. So again, nice mix. So what do we actually get up to other than we've got this framework, we kind of push it out. The team's quite busy all the time. We do a lot of work to help, what's the best way of saying this? We do a lot of work to help policymakers, provide evidence to policymakers to help them shift in the regulatory space. And that's really important, whether that be reviewing existing corporate reports to sort of inform what the current practice is and potential changes that would need to be made to the regulation to help actually get the consistent, comparable, decision useful information that capital markets need, get that rigor to it. Or whether it is some, really bold thought leadership like we're doing and we have done in the past, which is how do you apply IFRS 7 and 9 to climate change and environment? At the moment, we have a climate working group looking at IAS 1, 35 or 36, or maybe 36 or 37. Apologies, I'm not an accountant. But how you would then apply existing accounting standards to issues like climate change and what that looks like, and templates and examples. So, some of that, there's not a lot of good market practice or any market practice out there on this at the moment. So, some of this we have to make up, some of this we have to connect reports, some of it, there's some really interesting work going on there, so again, so just thinking about what companies are doing and how can we keep getting that better and better and better, and better information, not more information, higher quality information, right market, right place, right time. And via the right framework, standards, tools to actually do that and get that to the right audiences. We also do an awful lot of training and capacity building with various organizations and issuers across the world, as well as regulators. Huge spectrum of that kind of thing, everything from a handbook on how to comply with the non-financial reporting directive and examples to TCFD, in-person training and workshops. We do about between 4 and 6 webinars a month that are freely available on key topics globally with all of our friends and partners, just to try and keep people thinking, keep people learning, keep people up to speed, keep people challenging as we come into financial reporting season. And like I said, check the internet. We're always moving around the world when we can, if not via webinar and Zoom calls, helping people. And then I said earlier, we do a bit of advocacy, but we're more about policy-based advocacy. So we work with regulators, supervisors, enforcers of this sort of reporting to help them understand the role, what's important, teaching people in the UK government about climate change and why it's material. Actually, because they can't enforce it if they don't know what they're enforcing, because a lot of this stuff is already in law. Many governments do say already report on many of these issues. It's just not happening because it's not being enforced, because they don't really know what they're enforcing and how to. So we play a role there in supporting that work as well. But if you've ever got, if you'd ever like to have us over for a training webinar, very happy to get the team mobilized. So at the moment, you could say we're all about mainstreaming of the ESG, and I've touched on many things. We've written guidance with the Sustainable Stock Exchange Initiative on resilient stock markets, which we're now revisiting in light of the TCFD, and we'll be rolling out globally again shortly. Uncharted Waters is about accounting standards. The case for consistency is with the OECD, really helping them to frame some of their global thinking about the importance of consistent information for reporting. The list goes on. We get involved in lots and lots of different things. There's just a few on here, just to give you a taste of what the kind of things we do. So I've talked enough about CDSB now, I think. It's a bit of a whirlwind, I'm sorry, but I'd like to put us in the context of the reporting system and some other things that are going on, which I hope will set the scene nicely for my colleagues to continue on with IIRC and GRI's work. So CDSB is part of a connected reporting landscape, and I hope I've sort of indicated that as I've gone along. We're all in it. We've all been set up for a reason because there was a gap. Someone has had a good idea, a company, an investor, a group of people thought, actually, we're really missing this to help us tell our story, help us tell our value creation story. So that's why many of these different bodies exist. And most notably, we have talked about the TCFD a little bit today through different presentations. So I'm sure you're familiar with the G20 and Financial Stability Board's Task Force on Climate-Related Financial Disclosure. But you can't put a cigarette paper through CDSB's principles and requirements and TCFD principles and requirements. So this is just one example of where we do a lot of work is in helping companies comply with the TCFD recommendations. TCFD is our recommendations, they're not a framework. We have a framework, so it helps you do that. So we spend a lot of time supporting the TCFD Secretariat, helping companies and helping develop the tools and resources and thinking to help get the adoption of the TCFD. Now, I could be cheeky in saying, had the TCFD just taken our framework with the environment part, CDSB wouldn't need to exist, and we could have ticked off our mission, and I could have done something else. But sadly, they all believed us to start with climate, which is, not quite ambitious enough from my perspective, but just start with climate and go from there. And I think that's also part of the conservative nature of the banking industry, isn't it? We'll just start with climate. We'll see how that goes, and then we'll build out. But I don't think the planet has that amount of time left for those sort of frameworks to develop and reporting cycles and time lag that you get from that for this all to become real. But anyway, so just in short, you can't put a cigarette paper between them. And the TCFD did look at all of the frameworks out there when it did come together and built off all of the standard setters. And I'll come on to some resources later, but they were looking for the financially material ones that could help sort of look at the financial impacts and resilience of businesses in capital markets on climate change. And so, you could say, if you wanted to be even more cruder about it, you could say, they put CDSB's principles and requirements with SASB's metrics and targets, bolted on scenarios and a bit of integrated thinking, and they came to a set of TCFD recommendations. But that's also, again, just demonstrating that if you are doing bits of that system already and not all of it, you already started on your TCFD reporting journey. And I think that's really important because we've seen this huge push. The climate talks have been delayed this year till next year. Seeing a huge push from the former governor of the Bank of England, Mark Carney, to governments all over the world that he wants to get as many as he can mandating TCFD reporting by next November. We saw New Zealand move this week. First one out there. UK is just a sniff behind. I think they'll be gone in no time. Europe will have it in their new non-financial reporting directive. That could be anywhere between 20 and 40,000 companies in Europe. If you're a part of a supply chain linking to that, there's a chance you'll have to be doing this too. So I would have a really good look at these principles and requirements now and start to think, and the TCFD recommendations and the other tools and resources, which I'll come on to get started. Just have a look and think about the bit you can play. So I alluded to the CDSB. We power the TCFD Knowledge Hub on behalf of the TCFD Secretariat. And this is an absolutely, I'm always stunned when I look at this myself. I never get enough time to play on here. Please do find the time to play on this resource. It's updated daily with new tools. There is a monthly newsletter that comes out. We can get them into your inbox if you need to. There is, I think, 8 online freely available CPD accredited e-learning courses at the moment that go for around an hour, maybe hour and a half, depending, with like a quiz all the way through, get a certificate. There are a huge range of things around TCFD. A few weeks ago, we launched a governance module with the World Economic Forum and PwC. And next week, during Climate Week New York, we are launching a risk management module, which has been developed with a partnership with the Global Association of Risk Management Professionals. So another great resource. And it doesn't matter where you're at. These are not super technical. They're designed to get you on the market, start thinking about questions and how to get started. And almost make you dangerous, just that much amount of knowledge to start asking questions and put pen to paper and challenge colleagues around you. And whether that be your board, your management, your CEO, if you are the CEO, challenging your board, challenging junior employees how to get started. There's just a fantastic amount of resources on here. So I'm really proud to host it, because I think my team's done a great job keeping this up to date. Also, if you happen to produce something TCFD related, send it to us and we can pop it up there. That way then, it's available for everyone else in the world to get inspiration and learn from and use as well. There is also no cost to anything on this site. So just so you know, in case you ask me later and I can't remember. And there's also, just to highlight a few really helpful resources that are there, which again answer those how do I do it, what does it look like, and where do I get the data from kind of questions related to TCFD. Over the last 2 years, we've published 2 handbooks with SASB, an implementation guide, which has 4 sectors in there on how do you do it TCFD using the CDSB framework and SASB standards. Now, they are really helpful because they are sector specific and it does take you through step by step. It's quite a dense document, it's quite long. Don't get it all in one go, I urge you, or just flick to the nice bits. But it's an implementation guide. The technical people are always going to make it hard, aren't they? So yeah, get yourself a cup of tea or coffee and sit down and have a read. The TCFD Good Practice Handbook is actual extracts from corporate reports with good practice in it. And I urge you to have a look for what does it look like, what are others doing, to get inspiration about what you can do and how you can get started. Even if that is just drawing up a roadmap and putting years 1 to 5 on it, and a new one, right, get management on board. That's a really good start. Or get board on board, or get buy-in from top down, or get data in good quality. Just start with a line and pop it out and manage your progress as you move along before it becomes mandatory. And lastly, in that series, well, not lastly, but another one in that series is a recent one we published in May with CDP, which we call the building blocks, but it's where do I get my data from? Because that is one of the most asked questions we get in CDSB. Where do I get my data from? And we're like, oh, do you report to CDP? They're like, yeah. We're like, there you go, good starting place. So this one just gives you that solid data, a good place to start, how you can use what you've already got, reducing the cost of data collection and, making the most of what you've got, which is so important. And the last bit here is a TCFD checklist. We have a few TCFD related checklists. One is like how to get started, which is always a good place. Really simple actions you can do internally to start to get your ducks in a row. Oh, got the duck analogy in. Good. Get the duck in, or chicken, I should say chicken, golden chicken. Get your golden chickens in a row so that you can start to sort of, work through it. We also get asked, how do I know if I've done TCFD? So this checklist here is designed to help you, just kind of have that final kind of check through to make sure you kind of got your thinking in order on those things. Another and a more recent, and this I promise is the last time I'm going to speak on this today. The last point, which is screen seemed to frozen on you. The last one which I'll touch on, which I hope I haven't stolen the thunder of my former panelists, but hope they can add to it, is the moving towards the comprehensive standards statement of intent that was released on last Friday, Monday this week, between CDP, GRI, CDSB, SASB, and the IIRC on how we all fit together and agree that the global reporting system could work well now and well into the future. And this is really just one of the diagrams out of the report. If you haven't seen it, it will be on all of our websites, all of our LinkedIn accounts, all of our Twitter feeds. So please do go and have a read of the report. It's not that long, but I think it's, every word is very considered in it. So it should give you a really nice overview of the sort of the direction of travel and how we feel we all add value and continue to add value and can evolve to continue to add value to issuers, regulators, and others around the world. And there's been a huge amount of support from this, from IOSCO to International Federation of Accountants to accountancy bodies and other regulators around the world for the approach we're taking. But you can kind of see in the middle, we have the SASB CDSB, the financial material part, supported by the integrated thinking approach here, sort of nicely in the center. So these are the bits that you'd expect to sort of go into your annual report. That's sort of your annual reporting or your integrated reporting package there in the center, and connecting with the accounting, the financial impacts I mentioned earlier. So connecting it through right to the financial impacts. And that financial reporting piece will be built on information from GRI and CDP. And also we see CDP as playing perhaps a key role in the future as a sort of global sustainability report, sustainability, what am I saying? A global reporting repository. So where you can go globally to check out what is going on, a bit like Edgar is for financial reporting in the US. So we're sort of thinking through the system through and thinking, okay, well, this all works, right? This tells a really nice story and allows us all to work much more seamlessly together, again, to drive action quicker to a more sustainable future, which is why we're all set up to help companies tell their value creation story in various different ways. So that was a whirlwind. I do, again, I cannot, 2020, 2021 has to be the year of action and getting involved and stepping up, everybody on the call today. So, you know, if you're not doing anything next week, we have 2 webinars, one on an update of COP26 and TCFD from the TCFD Secretariat and the high level champion from COP. And that's, I think, on Wednesday around lunchtime UK time, so in the evening Asian time. And we have the launch, a risk related one with the Globalization of Risk Management Professionals. We're launching that module and got some great speakers from the World Business Council and GARP and industry in the US speaking. That will also again be in the afternoon Indian time. We release a CDSB newsletter and a TCFD newsletter separately monthly. Sign up for those. Get the latest stuff straight into your inbox. So you're ahead of the curve. You know what's going on. You know, you can then. There is so much good stuff coming out from all of the reporting bodies at the moment, and more to help, you know, shift the agenda forward fast. That, you know, I don't know where to spend all my time, to be honest. There is so many really interesting things going on. But just here are a few, and, you know, do the e-learning courses. I urge you all to go on and have a look. You know, we've already met our target for all the donors. I don't get any kickbacks from it, but we are seeing some great feedback on LinkedIn from it. So post your certificates if you achieve it, and let us know your feedback and what else you'd like us to work on, or what else you'd find helpful to help move your work, you know, across the different Asian countries, you know, forward on financial materiality. So of these issues, environmental, climate, and beyond into social. So thank you again. If you don't I look forward to questions when it's time. My contact details are there, so don't hesitate to contact me if I can be of help. I'm most likely going to point you in the direction of someone in my team who's much more knowledgeable than I am. And thank you for your time today, everyone. It's been a real pleasure. I'll stop sharing my slides now.
Thank you, Mardi. I think this is the most important topic of the time and of our lifetime, I would say. So you have already shared a wonderful insight what your organization is contributing towards that very cause. So I hope you stay back with the panel and then we have the question once our panel finishes the talk part.
That would be fabulous.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm going to my next speaker, Dr. Nandita Mishra. She's here. So welcome, Dr. Nandita. She's ambassador to IIRC. So great to have you here. Dr. Nandita is a researcher and an academic with over 2 decades of experience, but you don't seem to like 2 decades of experience. Great. She is country director, HETL. She is an associate professor of accounting and finance. She was awarded most innovative faculty in 2019 by the Center for Education, Growth and Research. She is a cost accountant also by profession, and of course thereafter the doctors, PhD, right? If I'm correct. If I'm correct, yeah. She has overwhelmingly written so many research articles and as many as 65 research papers. That's great. She has successfully completed 3 government-funded projects on sustainable development, livelihood creation, and uplifting society. She is part of the many committees. I think I am not able to read that much of her entire profile, but she has been part of many various committees of her institutes she comes from, and also part of the government bodies. So we have here today, Dr. Nandita will share and enlighten us on her part on IIRC today. So back to you, Dr. Nandita.
Thank you, Mr. Vijendra. Thank you for such a great introduction, and thank you, SR Asia, for inviting me to this international dialogue on ESG performance and reporting. I'm honored to be a panelist today with Ms. Mardi, Managing Director, CDSB. You have actually set the stage for me and pointed very right information, and I would like to start from the information with which you ended. So I would like to start with this very positive news as fresh as last week, where IIRC, CDSB, GRI, and SASB, the gold standard in forward-looking reporting, have joined hands in providing a shared vision for comprehensive, globally accepted corporate reporting, which will include not only financial accounting disclosures, but it will also include sustainability reporting, climate change disclosures via integrated reporting. So I know it is a tough time which has compelled us to devise innovative solutions. And there has never been more important time than this scenario of pandemic that we have joined hands and provide a more holistic and comprehensive reporting solution to business. Now I proceed with the topic of discussion today, which emphasizes on importance of climate disclosure in reporting. I must say this topic is and was always very important, but today it is really very pertinent. This pandemic has forced us to rethink our ways of operation, with changes in approach and enhanced focus on climate and socio-economic issues. Reporting is bound to change. We have witnessed businesses around the world have pivot their business model overnight to prioritize health and safety of their employees and customers above their immediate financial success of the business. The customers of future, the millennials, are keen to know if your product or your service is impact neutral, yes or no. Whether what you are giving to your planet is correct or not, or are you taking away a lot from your planet, from your society? I see the connection between sustainability and viability very clear now, much clearer than ever it was. This ongoing global pandemic and climate change, growing aspiration of future customer, this has really emphasized us to bring one harmonized system of reporting. And I think this is a great initiative and all companies will welcome this. I would just like to share maybe a small presentation which will give you a quick snapshot of what exactly IR as a body is and what exactly we do. So, as you know, year 2020 also comes as an year of our 10th anniversary. So integrated reporting, IIRC, is marking its 10th anniversary this year. But I also see that this year 2020, we are at the verge of seeing a very big change in reporting and overall sustainability behavior, whatever we do. Pre this 2020, the main focus of any company was profit maximization or maybe wealth maximization. We also have maybe sacrificed our climate, leading to a lot of climate risk, inequality, instability, just in the name of economic development. We have seen this all, and this was a very normal thing when it came to pre-2020. This 2020 has come up with a great shock to all of us, with lots of lives being given. Now we all see that the companies have changed their emphasis, their priorities. Their priority is not towards their profit making only. We have seen that they have prioritized the human cost. They have not just the companies, but our country also. Different countries we have seen that have undergone a complete lockdown. No matter it has resulted to economic turmoil, but still we placed human cost above anything else. I think post this 2020, there is a great shift. We do have to shift from the way we operate. We do have to change the way we operate. And the new normal has to be a sustainable business. So when I say sustainable business, I really don't mean that with sustainability, we have to sacrifice our financial viability. So these two things come in one pack. When I say sustainable business, it has to be financially viable. So therefore, I think the new normal post this 2020, so when we emerge as a new heroes in 2021, we will come across a new equilibrium, a new business, which is a best balance between financial viability and a sustainable business. Talking about IIRC, we are a combination of investors, companies, regulators, standard setters, academicians like me, and our goal is just to make a more responsive reporting and also a reporting which is very responsible. We have various stakeholders and members at our board. So we are privileged to have lots of council members, including SEMA, Nestle, Tata, KPMG, and many others. So I really think that integrated reporting starts with integrated thinking. Unless and until we start with integrated thinking, we will not end up with the value which we really want to create. So it starts with integrated thinking when our stakeholders, when the board members inside their board start thinking about the value which they want to create, then only they can come up with a plan which creates value. So we have to bring in all the resources, whatever we have, think in a very integrated way, and then only we can come up with a plan which creates value. And this is something which we report. So integrated reporting is not doing anything else, but just enhancing the way organizations are presenting their story. So we just integrate your own story, but your story has to be distinctive, has to be different. And believe me, when your story is a long, elaborate story, which looks more like a history book and less like an annual report, nobody is interested in reading that. So obviously the reporting has to be concise. It has to be clear. We don't, the stakeholders, the investors, or anybody, your audience don't want to look into a history book. They want to see an annual report, which actually through which they can see what exactly the company is doing. So the report has to be clear. It has to be concise. In IIRC, we always emphasize at concise reporting. We never say that the report has to be like a bundle of pages, which we get lost around it. And it should tell the story of business, that how that business is creating value through the resources. So the business model has to be built around your own story. Just IIRC, the integrated reporting framework, is just a way in which you can create this value, you can show this value, and your story has to be distinctive. Your story has to be really very different. When I say integrated reporting has to be concise, has to be clear, we all know that when it comes to business, it is about strategies and plans. So when it comes to making strategies, making plans, obviously we have to make our strategies in such a way that we are aware of all the risks which we may face in future. In fact, the investors are also looking at the same. If we are informed about our risk, if we take informed decisions, obviously it will attract investors. You will gain your shareholders' confidence, and this will eventually improve your firm's performance. So when I say value creation, it is never one way that we are giving just to our society and not getting back. Believe me, when we give to our society, you will get things back. It is never a one-way process. It is always a two-way process. So when I say value creation, the value creation is a like 360-degree value creation. It is for your society and it is for yourself also. As just Mardi also discussed, that integrated reporting, I think it's a broader umbrella where we are bringing in both financial disclosures and non-financial disclosures. We can actually integrate these reporting into one report. So we are bringing in ESG disclosures and keeping a track with our financial disclosures also. So maybe integrated reporting, I can say it is an integration of report. And this is what now company or businesses want. Because especially if I say in Asia or in fact in Europe also, we have a lot of mandatory regulations, we have a lot of voluntary regulations. And if the company go towards fulfilling all these mandatory and voluntary disclosures, believe me, the annual report has to be a history book only. But if we want it to be concise, if we want to be right up to the point, and if we want that company believes more in doing than in just presenting, we have to have a concise reporting, and we have to have an integration of report. So I think integrated reporting is best solution to bringing in one roof financial and non-financial disclosures. So integrated reporting is actually bringing in non-financial and financial disclosures under one roof. And basically, when I say that by doing that, it's not only that we are saying, but we have seen that various researchers and various reports have narrated the same story, that after adoption of sustainability reporting and integrated reporting, companies have reported, or companies have increased their firm value, their stock liquidity has improved, their share performance has improved, the cost of capital has decreased. So various research echo the same point. So that means if the company is doing the right thing, if it is creating a right value, if we are putting every resources in a right way, we are creating value for ourselves also. So it is not just society which is gaining out of it, it is the company also. We all are as a whole gaining out of what we are doing. The only thing is we have to do it correct. We have to put or show it in a correct way. It's not just financial, it has to be financial and non-financial. So I think gone are the days when we just emphasize on financial capital. The financial capital is not the correct definition of capital. So at IIRC, we always emphasize that capital is not just financial capital. It has to be 6 capitals. So financial capital, manufactured capital, intellectual capital, human capital, social and relationship capital, and natural capital. When I say that a company is investing in financial capital, I think this is a half story told. So any company, if I am focusing only on financial capital, I think I'm not doing the correct job. So for any company to have a overall growth, for an overall representation of its story, whatever it is doing, it has to report on all 6 capitals. And this is what after this pandemic, we should be more aware of. We all have noticed that during this pandemic, we have seen sky which is much more blue and rivers which are definitely cleaner than before. Specifically in India and Asia, I can sure bet on that we have never seen such blue skies as before this pandemic. That definitely means we are taking away a lot from the climate. We are not giving it back. So it is time for us to give it back. We have to be aware. Financial capital is not just one capital. It has to be all 6 capital overall. So I would like to just end and emphasize on this point that our purpose at IIRC is not just to promote business, but to promote prosperity for all and protect our planet. Because it's an overall ecosystem, we cannot grow in isolation, we have to grow overall. So with growth, we know that IIRC has grown over these 10 years. Now we are adopted in 70 plus countries, more than 2,000 organizations, and more than 40 plus stock exchange recognized IR. So I would like to thank you all for your attention and time, but it is really, I think, time for all of us to integrate and move ahead with a great story of value creation post this pandemic. And thank you. So I think you are muted. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, please unmute. Virendra, please unmute.
You're on mute, Virendra ji.
Please unmute your Zoom.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry. All right. So I thank Dr. Nandita for sharing very articulative view on integrated reporting, and I think that integration itself makes lots of sense. We always say integrated and holistic in the same manner, and most of the time, in my own prescription, I ask anybody to go to a physician first and then go to a specialist next, because a physician has an approach of looking at the patient in a very holistic manner. And believe me, I follow that. So in that context, you have set the stage to discuss more on the same. And we come to that once our another guest, Pallavi, who is here from GRI. Pallavi, welcome. So I also would briefly introduce Pallavi. She is and sustainability experts with GRI now. But she comes in from a wonderful organization known globally, Tatas. Tatas are globally respected, we know that. And she has worked with them for, if I'm not wrong, she started the career with them, right? And since then, she has been part of many stories. So she is also a passionate on sustainability domain. She has done lots of work on sustainability domain. She is also a prolific writer. She writes to many of the publications. Some of them maybe GRI, and some for TCS, some of our prestigious institutes in India, like IM. So and she's a trainer also. So she does some capacity building programs here in different countries like India, Bangladesh, Malaysia, so on and so forth. So there's a lot to read again on her biodata, but I would leave it back to Pallavi. She will throw more insight by her own presentations and share what we're going to learn from her. So back to you, Pallavi.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Virendra. Thank you so much. I'm very honored to share this panel again with you, Virendra ji, Dr. Danta, and Sumaya today. So last week when we met was the panel on talking on the value chain disruption. So and the role of reporting in it. So very happy to be here again. Thank you for that introduction, making it little concise. I know it was too long to, take up time of this panel. But yes, I am actually a secondment from Tata Consultancy Services to GRI. And so there earlier, I was working on sustainability consulting assignments. But after that, I'm like 100% dedicated to GRI for quite some time now. So actually, today's session was where Dr. Aditi was supposed to be here amidst this panel, but she couldn't be, there. She has to attend some emergency there. So I would try to fill in this, gap, and I hope I'm sharing my screen and it's visible to everyone.
Yes.
Can someone just confirm?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's coming, I think. Yes, visible.
Yeah.
Visible.
Okay. Yeah. So Okay, so here just wanted to start with the introduction for those who are not aware that GRI is an independent international organization for 20 years now, trying to provide a global common language. And I, with full respect to all the panelists here today as well, that that's where the actual the foundation was built by GRI 20 years back, and on which the new emerging frameworks have built in today. And what basically GRI standards, which is the core of GRI, does is it helps businesses and organizations first to understand their sustainability impacts and then to communicate it internally as well as externally. And GRI standards is world's most widely used reporting framework, and it's freely available good on the GRI website. Today we are referenced in the policies of 67 countries and around 170, 160 policies where GRI standards are referenced. And 75% of the largest 250 companies in world are using GRI's framework. We also have seen a great interest when we moved from GRI guidelines to GRI framework, sorry, GRI standards in 2016. Uh, Coming to directly to the topic, and I'm sure we have exceeded the time. I'll try to keep the my views very concise, but having said that, we are now experiencing and trying to get ourselves out of COVID-19 as an individuals, as well as all of us representing some or other businesses. These are some of the impacts that according to us are actually being are actually impacting the world globally. If you see that there is, as Dr. Nandita also mentioned, that we have never seen skies more blue and waters more clearer, and we see that the environment has improved, but we all know that it's temporary, and once the economy is back on track, it's going to be perhaps worst. uh, we also see population health was never such a major challenge, but today it is. We have seen economic downturn like never before, and we have seen lot of increased inequalities across the globe, especially in emerging economies like never before, where poorers are most vulnerable of the whole impacted population. We have seen external stakeholder impact, whatever businesses had planned earlier in terms of how much should be the the produce. If I'm talking about the goods for year 2020, it has all changed because we have changed the lifestyle. We are no more using the office wear. We all are in perhaps in our night suits every day, and that's where the demand of the the apparel has gone low. Supply chains have have disrupted in a dangerous and disastrous way, with all the confined boundaries across the globe. We have never thought that we will need government support so much, which is coming in. Businesses are under scrutiny in terms of how they are treating their employees, how they are treating the overall how they are coming up with the overall crisis. And of course the returns expected at the beginning of 2020 are not the same. If I talk only about the business impact, the continuity and how they emerge out of this situation and how they are demonstrating the resilience is greatly under the scan. We also see health and safety risks of the employees, of the customers never being threatened earlier like today. And we also see the productivity gone down because today there are some affected employees. Some employees reporting to work, tomorrow they might not be reporting because they are suffering from the deadly virus. So the also that has brought out a lot of board and executive and team oversight to manage the whole situation. These are nothing but all the sustainability impacts which uh, were never earlier given so much of importance, or were there always but never been called as sustainability. So sustainability is not too different from the usual business operations, but it has to be given its due importance. So what if the next global crisis strikes? We come out of this whole situation, but there's still, if the next global crisis strikes, what happens? Uh, for that reason, it is high time that the businesses understand that embedding sustainability into the fundamentals of their business is the key to resilience. And how do we do it? Is understand first sustainability parameters. How do they impact you? Based on which you embed them, strengthen your strategy, have a foresight, a vision where there is a 360-degree view of enabling the entire environment, and then come to the transparency where you're communicating the impacts, its interlinkages, cross linkages of financial and non-financial performance and impacts, and also proactively address your stakeholder expectations. And this is an opportunity. COVID is an opportunity where a trust deficit, which was there, which is there, and because of the COVID situation perhaps has increased more. uh, you know uh, if we consider, even our situation, if tomorrow our employers ask us to be there at the workplace, we first start, we don't directly trust on them, but we start first thinking like, is it safe? Should I wear a mask? Should I wear a PP? How should I go? Or should I tell my employer that I join after a month? So these kind of thoughts do come to our mind. There is definitely a trust deficit at all levels. And this is an opportunity for the companies to improve this trust quotient. And I believe that, this is a crisis we are facing, but also it's an opportunity to design not only the products and services, but the entire way of thinking how we are doing it. And let's not go this crisis waste. When we are talking about the transparency, it's very essential to have a 360-degree approach. And I do agree with my fellow panelists that it's all about integrated thinking, and just trying to put across, how that thinking would be built on gradually. So most of the organizations have a compliance focus, especially in this part of the world, where organizations believe that if I'm compliant, it is good enough. I will do reporting only if it is mandatory. Going beyond that, and going beyond your financial KPIs, where of course we do agree that profit making is the key and important, but going beyond that, going beyond the factual information about the past performance, and also a part of performance story. How do we build on this old foundation which we have already been doing, right from compliance to building on the performance story? How is the new narrative that we can bring in, like, why value creation story? I do agree with Dr. Nandita as well, how that story comes out. How is the business model, and how it is based on the performance metrics which are science driven, which are based on the with the heavy science based research, and how overall risk and opportunities are looked at, and overall how is the organization's outlook. And there are new ways of reporting that are coming up, which I agree are not only expected to be concise, but also real time. So we envisage a future where there is going to be real time reporting at any point of a time. The decision makers are able to make or take decisions based on the company's reporting companies. These reports are expected to be interactive going forward. and of course need not be reporting on the entire all the performance on all the parameters, all the material topics which we call it as, but also there could be thematic report. Today we're talking about the climate change reporting, and also these thematic reports, how can they be made available to the relevant stakeholder, and of course the stakeholder focused reports we are talking about. Sorry, I got a poll here. Can I do something about it? Yeah, sorry. So again, talking about a 360-degree.
You can just cross it in case if you're finding it.
No, I did that, but it popped up again. Yeah. Yeah. I was, yeah, I was on the topic 360-degree view of reporting. So every organization, because since there is a lot of there are a lot of frameworks all around, it's important to guide organizations in the right direction. Starting from organization are asking themselves, why should I report? So according to us, why should you report? To address mandatory disclosures for sure, and also think through, how I can have or increase opportunity for myself, which also includes capital allocation, and also develop my own corporate objective, a vision, a purpose, is what a report can be used for. I should be building on the content elements of my mandatory and voluntary reporting frameworks and principles. Uh, how I should be reporting is using the standards or frameworks that support the disclosure of the information, and which is not only based on the compliance requirements, but also which are required by my expected by my stakeholders. Where should I report? Of course, there are various reporting channels, and nobody's stopping organizations to be more innovative. You don't have to have heavy PDFs, but there are a number of ways of interactive reporting, and it could be hosted on your websites. There could be e-reports, there could be physical copies if still some of your stakeholders require you to do that. You should take into consideration all the stakeholders. Now that the attention of the stakeholder, the concept of stakeholders is moving from shareholders to other stakeholders. I'll just come to one of the interesting findings around here. The report should be focused on the stakeholders, and how do stakeholders know that your information is reliable? GRI recommends third party assurance. Of course, it's not mandatory, so that there is more credibility to the report. And this is just a depiction of how an organization can take next steps once they understand why they are doing all this, why reporting for their organizations, right from defining a purpose and gap analysis to the whole processes, and finally comes the content development where you actually generate a report. And it's a last step. Usually organizations do misunderstand that report is somewhere they should start with, but it's a it's a last step to take up. This is the diagram I was talking about, where it is clearer that 87% of around 2000 professionals who were actually interviewed said that stakeholders, not shareholders, are the most important to long-term company success. So that's how the attention is now moving from only shareholders being the most important stakeholders. This is something I would like the audience to leave a thought with, that when you start reporting as an organization, we have to answer that, are we empowering the assessment and action on through my reporting on global impacts, stakeholder impacts, and business impacts? Are my report users empowered with this information so that they can make a very wise and fair assessment? Are we prepared for change in the format of reporting? Because we all do agree that it's going to be more thematic, more stakeholder driven, more real time, more interactive. Are we ready for this change? And we should be. It's my recommendation, personal recommendation. And moreover, through my reporting, how am I improving the trust deficit? Because that's most important, especially this part of the world. And how you can do is through the balanced reporting, where you are reporting on the wider context of sustainability and not restricting it only to your key achievements, financial instruments, or even non-financial, but only the achievements. Are you talking about your failures and how you're managing them? Also, reportings which are based on the measurements, and measurements which are based on the matrices, which are based on the science, and which are being based on the research, global research. These matrices are then going to actually help you to make a very balanced and clear reporting, so that there is no trust deficit. And GRI standards do address these challenges. And uh, we also have this we also, I do agree with that world doesn't need more confusion with more and more reporting framework. And very proud to say that GRI were the initiators where there is more convergence in the framework. And I'm equally happy, like my fellow panelists, where we last week announced on or about the convergence that is happening. And just this is just the beginning with IR, CDP, and SASB, and there is long way to go. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Pallavi, for being very crisp to the subjects. So, Shumaya, are you there? If you could, if you could put all the panelists on screen. Shumaya?
Yes, I am here.
Okay. So,
Coordinating only.
okay. So, all right. So I think we have some time left, very precious time from you all three. So I will have some queries, questions which I have received from the participants, and but first I have my few questions which I will take it around. So I'll go to Mardi first. Mardi, 2-3 things with the current perspective. Though reporting, as we all are stating, is being used also to raise the confidence, to raise the trust, to minimize the trust deficit among all the stakeholders, all the parties together. Looking at the current scenario, I think it's not local, but it's globally. Generally, everybody has realized that nobody is here to my help, be it individuals or be it companies. There is a realization that we have to survive on our own. People are also thinking similarly now, that I have to take care of myself. I have to take some energy boost. I have to take my booster to boost my immunity boosters. And I have to take mask. I have to take mask and precautions. So we are looking at a contrast, at one part, we are going for more coverage. We are going to put mask and going to shield us more from the protect ourselves. Whereas the companies in the same context has to report irrespective of the kind of disasters we had in the past and never ever realized pandemic we have now. We continue to be in the pandemic situations. I would therefore like to throw these questions to you all three, that given this scenario where we feel all alone, all lonely, and there is definitely a trust deficit, how companies in the given scenario would be more transparent? Because I consider this situation applies globally, not for Indian companies only, but this issue would apply to all companies everywhere. How do you see? And another aspect also, I think I can share before I come to you, Mardi, that I have also seen that some companies, even in the given scenario, have been all out to the communities and helping them. That also I have seen. We have seen some companies in Bangladesh, they shared their story with us. We also know for that matter, many good companies, known companies in India, were doing much more than the government was doing directly. So in your Mardi, like in carbon disclosures, that becomes important. But considering that the companies has to operate in the given scenario, in the current scenario, and there are situations like disaster and pandemic, are there provisions with your reporting mechanism where such things also takes place and are given due consideration, or where if there are situations, the government will also not, government means there are regulatory agencies which also take the advantage of the situation. If you are being too transparent, that also becomes a trouble. So how do you see the situation ahead?
So at CDSB, our audience is directly investors. So the sort of information I don't think I've ever heard an investor say, "Oh my goodness, they told me too much." They want as much information as out there, but they want it in a way they can use it. Now, and COVID's a really good example, because that has led to talk of a green, more sustainable recovery in many countries across the world. I think the EU this morning have announced a 37% of the bailout money will be green, sustainable recovery. That's a huge amount of the European budget, bailout budget, that's linked to that. So we really are, this is really about transparency leads to more resilience, doesn't it? Helps you tell your story better. But reporting my style, reporting IIRC style, is about telling your value creation story. If I was going to talk about how my business had been helping in the local community, I would put that in my sustainability report. And that's interesting. It's not going to move capital. It's good business activity. It needs to happen. It needs to continue to happen, and more of it. But it's not going to shift capital. That just helped to demonstrate what a good citizen the business is, that it is straining to do more. So from a CDSB perspective, if COVID becomes financially material on the bottom line, and there's no reason why companies shouldn't have been thinking about pandemic. I mean, it's been in the WEF risk register in the top 5 risks for the last few years, along with climate, water, many other, and AI and sort of data cybersecurity. I mean, these are ongoing reported risks that companies risk committees and boards should be thinking about and should be planning for, and should be making sure they have enough free cash to deal with if they do arise, or having a strategy for how they will manage that across their staff, supply chains, and much more broader across societies that they are often in. So from a CDSB perspective, it's very, very much about investor-focused reporting only, because we are about linking with financial reporting, which is primarily investor-focused. I'd say a lot of what you talked about, I would say, fits with many of both my other colleagues talking about reporting today, but more and more in a GRI report.
So I put the same Nandita, if you are mute.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I would actually agree to Mardi because when we
I
say,
want to add also. I
yeah,
also want to add
yeah,
that in for your I think for in India you have a easy job because there are so many agencies and our particularly SEBI is recommending II integrated reporting.
right, right, right.
So throw some light on that also, that how could you get so much support for companies for your guidance, for your framework?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I was answering to your previous question. I would say that I agree with Mardi because when we talk about reporting, we have to focus towards, or we have to think like, who is my audience? And obviously, investor is one of the most important audience for a company because we are making our reporting, or we want to show more and more information to a person who is interested in it. And I think investor is one of the most prominent stakeholder who is really interested in your annual report. They want more transparency so that they can take a wise decision while making their investment. So especially with country like India, I think if we don't move on towards this kind of reporting where we are more transparent, where we include non-financial disclosures also, we will not be able to attract investors from Europe and America. And this is one of the major reasons which I find in India, that majority of the companies now are moving towards integrated and sustainability reporting. Because when I say that, as I said, that it is about value creation, but value creation has to start from the company itself. We also have to be financially viable, and we need some investment for that. A good investor, a good cost of capital is the starting point for that. So obviously reporting is has served its purpose only when, if I say that I am giving full information to all the audience, whoever is reading my annual report. So one is this. So I think more and more transparency is always good for all the stakeholders, and it will always help. And I think this is the point which SEBI and all different regulators in India do understand. And not just that, in 2017 SEBI has said that they encourage integrated reporting for top 500 companies here in India. But I also know this for fact that in 2021 again they are coming with a new framework of BRSR, which is a great integration of GRI integrated and all this reporting, which does not just talk about financial reporting, but it also talks about non-financial disclosures. So it's not just investors, it's also regulators, it's companies, it's researchers who are actually maybe bending towards, we all need this great transparency in our final or in our reporting. So I find the same. I am very happy that our regulators also understand this, and they also understand that lot of regulation will not help, so they have to integrate this. So they have to come up with some solution when we say that, okay, this is also mandatory, but it does not comes as a burden to the company, but it comes as a positive point for a company. So if companies do or disclose these points, they get something out of it. So it's all about, like, it's, as I said, it's not one way, it's all about both the ways. It's when company are more transparent, they get more or better investors. So it's like two-way. Yeah.
Thank you. So I will again go back to Mardi. Uh, Mardi, we see uh, some uh, some reversal in the globalization in the last 5 years. We see some protectionism coming in, market shrinking within the boundaries. If you can see Europe in particular, you can see that UK, disassociating themselves from European Union. and US taking different kind of steps to protect their own domestic market, and something different happening in India, and it's never would. Now, when we are planning to have a uniformal standards for the same purpose, because I think companies like yours, the organization like yours, CSDS or IA, our sole purpose is to have a globally, universally acceptable standards which applies in the same form everywhere. How do you see this being manipulated from one country to another when we want to benchmark, say, where with in a sense, whether when we want to say Indonesia doing good reporting, India doing little better, Bangladesh is not doing that well. Then if you go to Gulf, they saying, oh, they don't believe in reporting. How do you see this scenario changing? The reporting, how it will be impacting our our initiative, reporting mechanism, disclosure mechanism?
So it's a really good question. It's one we get asked a lot. How do we level the playing field globally, right, on full reporting and communication of information, which is what everyone truly wants. And I could probably speak for my other panelists in saying that, even if we are out of jobs. So I guess this is, I suspect, okay, so I started my job, sorry, a bit of history lesson. I started my job nearly 10 years ago at CDSB. And 9.5 years ago, I was part of a group of people that wrote a letter to IOSCO saying they needed to take global action on ESG so they could drive a consistent ESG reporting approach across the world to capital markets. It's taken nearly all of those 10 years for them to move, or 9 of those years, for them to actually start to say, enough of those years for them to actually start to say the right signals. And in the last few weeks, we've seen significant noise out of IOSCO about the need for a global system. Now, behind that need for a global system, I think for the first time ever, we have the IFRS Foundation trustees talking about the need for a global ESG system to sit alongside the traditional accounting system. We have never heard that before. That's why we were set up. That's why IIRC was set up, because they weren't moving. And they're moving, they're talking. Now, and if you align that kind of movement, and I don't mind a little bit of a gamble here or there on a horse race or a cricket match, but if you start to think this through, right, you've got the big sort of powerhouses that almost got, so IOSCO was responsible for the international accounting standards being adopted in most, not America, but most countries in the world. They leveled the playing field to make numbers apply almost the same across the world. So if we could do that for sustainability, would that be fantastic? So you would have seen the house I had on earlier, and Dr. Nandita talked about as well. So I can tell you that that's just not the start. The next paper from that is due to be released during the London Climate Action Week. And it's more of a technical look at how you might bring some of those together from a technical perspective. So how, if you took, and CDSB's the lead author on this paper, so I can talk about it. We're taking the CDSB framework, the IR framework, and the SASB standards and metrics, and the TCFD, and laying them all on top of each other as the story goes, and then taking the names off. What do you reckon that looks like? I've got a pretty good idea. It looks like a good draft to give the IASB and IFRS Foundation to get started. We're then laying the names back on top, and we're going to do that as a little subset just for climate, just so everyone can see how that works. And so that's coming out London Climate Action Week. So I think you're going to start to see, that's another nice positive next step about how these things fit together to help financial markets take account of this. Remember, we're trying to get to a more sustainable world faster, and we do need money to do that. We shouldn't kid ourselves here. So we need to make sure that when the investor allocates their money, they are doing it to the best possible transparent business and purposes in the market, and this will help do that. So I think this isn't saying, oh, we're all going to merge and we're all going to be one, but what this is saying is The market does not want to hear we all fit together. They want to see it fits together. And we need to now take that next step that moves beyond, oh, it's nice to pay together nicely, because we always do that. But to actually, there are some practical things we can do to make this easier for you as companies and investors and regulators to move this agenda forward faster. But Dr. Nidhi, you might want to talk about this too. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Nidhi, Nandita, yes.
Oh, I will just say you said it all correct. So I do agree that we need a comprehensive report, a holistic guideline. So and it's a right step that we took on 11th of this month. So obviously it's like going to be a better world tomorrow. But the thing is, especially in India, what I and in other Asian countries, I find that we have many regulations as compared to Europe and in fact in America. So for us, especially, it is a situation, or it's a regulation which we all want. So there has to be some holistic and comprehensive reporting system which fulfills the need of the regulators or maybe investors and maybe society at a large. So yeah, I think as Mardi rightly pointed out, that it is everything that we have to keep everything one above the other and just remove the name. It's not about the name, it's about the purpose for which all these bodies are working. So we are working towards the purpose, which will not only we will not be just able to fulfill our purpose, but also serve the society at a large. So that should be the agenda. It's not about name, it's about the purpose. So I think, yes, our purpose will be fulfilled and we are working in a very positive way towards it.
Thank you. I have a question, and I am going to add on that. The question is that there is a pandemic and companies have the same stories of pandemic affecting their financial and non-financial performances. So are there any suggestions for companies on the strategy to report the ESG performance, referring to GRI standards or other standards? But I mean, I would also like to add that the pandemic has affected companies, businesses, people everywhere. What flexibility our disclosures and reporting mechanism will have for this pandemic? Because I think for almost for half of the financial year is gone for companies, and we are still uncertain of the kind of a business environment which will be there in the next 1 year or 2 years. Are we also going to see it differently, or are we just going to stick, oh no, you got to report this, you got to report that, you got to report this, you have to report carbon? Are we also going to look at, evaluate the pandemic and the disaster in a way that the report is going to look like differently, or is it going to be the same order? Mardi, you first, please.
So where carbon is or climate issues are required to be reported by law, you have to report them anyway, right? And that's across the EU, straight other countries. There are countries in this world that require you to report carbon regardless of whether there is a pandemic or not in your annual report. However, the purpose of the CDSB framework is to be telling the story of your most material financial issues and how you're adapting your strategy, your metrics and targets, your enumeration, what assumptions you're making on your accounts. So climate change and climate resilience might not be the story of your 2019, 2020 or 2020, 2021 accounts in terms of what is most material to your shareholders and to the market. But I would say, investors know your sector, they know your company. So if it's not material now, they may still well have questions about what resilient mechanisms are put in your place. What is your business, long-term business strategy over the next 3, 5, 10 years to reducing your carbon footprint, to moving your operations from a water-sensitive area to emerging human rights and diversity issues in other jurisdictions where you may have business. They know your business. They will be able to tell you what they think is most material to you, as well as you, who should know, because it's your story, right? You know that story, you know what your story is this year, what is most important for you to be telling. So I would expect there are, but I can say CDSB is based in CDP, and CDP has more corporate reporters than ever this year. So companies are still seeing value and dedicating resources to submitting lengthy disclosures to CDP on climate this year. So, you know, have we just doubled down on what's most important?
Yes. So, yeah, the last question from my side would be, and then I would also invite Shomaya and Danta, if they have anything in their mind, they can also approach directly. You have already narrated, explained to us in detail the advantages and the requirement and the drive for all these disclosures and reporting. I think that's quite intensively you have covered. What do you think are going to be the challenges for companies to do ESG reporting? What challenges you see in different continents? If you can also share your experiences, if you can. Mardi first, and then same question I have for Nandita.
I'm going to actually ask Nandita to start first, because I think she might have more experience on this one than me, if that's all right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. I see. What I feel is, first of all, with this pandemic, I really think, and I really truly believe in this, that reporting or going towards this ESG and sustainability reporting is going to pick up. Reason being, it's not just about this continent, about every continent. I see a shift in Asia, but I do believe that the same is the scenario everywhere in the world. The reason is this: if we still stick only to financial reporting, we are not actually able to tell our investors and regulators what different things we are doing. As I told you, we are emphasizing a lot on human costs at present. And if I still stick on my financial reporting, on my financial capital, it's half the story told. And obviously, the part which you're missing is the real part, which now the investors will look upon. So because the investors have already changed, we are not just looking for a company who is doing very good financially, but also towards a company who is repaying back to the climate, who is doing good to the climate, good to the employees. So it's a holistic view. We cannot just stick to financial reporting. So I think post pandemic, this ESG reporting will pick up. And
you, Dr. Nandita, can you just add also what challenges companies would think that you have elaborated in detail, that what are the advantages?
Yes,
what challenges?
Because I think we are currently also running a project wherein we are asking different companies who have adopted integrated reporting that or sustainability reporting, that what challenges did they face when they shifted from their reporting style to integrated reporting. So maybe their first year of transition. So the challenges which generally, if I talk about our continent in Asia, the challenges is, yes, that many of the companies feel that, okay, this is yet another type of reporting and this is over and above the reporting which I'm already doing. So I think a very good solution to that is a comprehensive reporting or holistic reporting, which we are already thinking in that direction. So I think that is one of the biggest challenge. For a company, let us say it may be a reporting of GRI or IR, or let it be any name. If you give name, it is just one more reporting for a company. So for a company, it has to come as one package. It should not be like divided in n number of names. So that I think is the biggest challenge which companies here in India face, because we already have a lot of mandatory regulations. Secondly, sometimes I have interviewed many of the CFOs and various people working in this area. So many times it is a challenge for small and medium sector SMEs, because maybe for them it's not very viable, or maybe it is not very easy for them to adopt or go with these kind of reporting. So if we can come across, or I have been telling this again and again, that if we can make a tailor-made system or a tailor-made reporting for them, it will really help. And the third challenge which I generally see is that there are few terms which companies do confuse or don't understand the main meaning or the main sole meaning of that. So when I say value creation, many times we confuse with value creation is just a value creation for society. So we think that this does not include our profit making, or this does not include value creation is just about creating a value for or society. So that's what I think. This myth has to be, I think we have to go ahead, we have to overcome this. And there is a step which a company has to come forward, and I think there is of course a step which all the reporting bodies, framework bodies have to come. So there has to be some midway. So I think we all should work towards one comprehensive reporting system, which is the biggest challenge. And I think we are already working towards that. So I hope I answered your question. So I see these challenges basically.
And companies like that come closer. Okay. So, yeah. Mardi, yeah, yes. I think climate change is most important subject for SR Asia also, and we always keep it at the center stage of our dialogue, local or international dialogue. I would like to understand from you that from our part of the world, I've been to Europe for quite a long time. I have worked there for over 10 years. So I understand the MSME and the SME sectors there. What are your thoughts for, this part of the world where MSME is mostly unorganized? Though it serves a big purpose in terms of the employability and innovations to the industry, there's no doubt about it. But at the same time, this issue of climate change or the issues of pollutions or the compliances remains a big challenge for government and the society to address. Do you have anything to say on that, that how we make a step forward in this directions?
So CDSB focuses largely on large listed companies, just because we have to have a boundary somewhere, and and we're about providing information to capital markets. So that makes sense for us. What I'm seeing from a supply chain perspective is coming through a lot in the European regulation. It's coming through that, and it's going to come from investors at the top, but it won't come. It's coming because the interest is coming because of the challenges through supply chains all the way down to the bottom, and they need to know and be clear that the products they're investing in at this big multinational company that have come through SME businesses around the world are actually robust and stack up to the third party sort of verification for issues like climate, human rights, labor, all the sort of things are coming through supply chain program. And large companies now can more and more, and particularly under some of the new investor regulations that are coming in across Europe and the UK, investors have to know what they're buying, which means when they're investing in that company, which means the company has to be transparent from the top down and has to know exactly where it's getting it from, what it is, and where any skeleton may be hidden that could mean finance is diverted away from that company achieving, making its money and moving forward. So from an SME perspective, we're seeing a lot more interest from those that are linked into those big supply chains, which I know is not anywhere near what you have. But India and Asia are huge suppliers to the rest of the world, which mean if these sort of regulations are being enforced in somewhere like Europe that has a huge global procurement footprint, then at some point, if you want to supply into those supply chains, you have to know what you've got and what its credentials are.
Thank you so much for such a insightful thoughts. So, Dr. Danta, Shomaya. Maybe I have to give them a hello.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Virendra. It is very interesting that we have speakers from different perspective in terms of ESG reporting. So the companies know that they can present their ESG performance based on the climate change perspective, based on the creating value, based on the economic, social, environmental dimensions. Yeah. So the challenge is that the company needs to know. The company needs to know which standards and guidelines that are can suit their objectives, purpose, and the characteristic of the businesses. Because in Indonesia we have experienced that some companies would like to comply with a lot of standards. So yeah, we have experience analyze a report. The company use the IIRF standard, TCFD, and some indicators from GRI, and also the country regulations. Okay, I would like to know the perspective of the speakers here about that. Each standard has its own perspective. Yeah, and probably you can add some advice or comments how to deal with that.
I think they've done too much work. That's my starting point, right? Next time someone tells me they've done a sustainability report, a TCFD report, an integrated report, an annual report, disclosed to CDP, and done like some other ones over here, I'm like, why? Like, why? That's not what any of them are actually asking you to do. An integrated report is supposed to be some of your key sustainability storytelling with your financial information plugged together. That's where your TCFD response should fit in that.
Yes.
And great if you want a separate sustainability report. I know people like that. But actually, you're just making life harder for yourself because no one has asked you to do that. Mark Carney did not say publish a separate standalone TCFD report. What he said was integrate that into your existing financial reporting. So if you want to do all this extra work and spend all this extra money, by all means do it. But no one is asking you to do it. And just on that, like reporting is not a beauty parade either. So ditch the graphics, ditch the things you don't need, and actually make it about really, truly meaningful storytelling and responding to those calls that investors want or other stakeholders want for information and addressing those head on, clearly and concisely and comparably.
Yeah, I hope the companies listen to you now.
Oh, I say this all the time. I'm sure someone's going to have me put aside one day because I say things like that.
Every time we meet the potential clients, and then the first question we ask them is, what are the standards are you using now in developing the reports? And they said this, and we said, why did you do that? And the company will say that because we would like to be a leading company in reporting, blah, blah, blah. They said that is not the point. Use the standard that fit into your purpose objective. Who are your stakeholders?
The only thing that becoming a leading recognized person, like company in reporting does is it helps get you more budget internally to do more. But it doesn't help tell your story any better to the market. And actually, your investors respond better to a better story, better information. And essentially, at the end of the day, your board will respond better. You're going to get noticed if that information is connected to the board, not in a separate report that's over here. If it's the one that the chairman has to sign off on, he has to read it, right? The board have to read it. The remuneration committee have to think about it. The audit committee has to think, does what we've said there, doesn't it? It's it's about telling the right story. And again, as Dr. Nandita said earlier, right story, right audience, right place, right time. And all of those things have to be thought through before companies report. And I'm afraid everyone's going, well, I need to do this, I need to do this. And you ask exactly the right question then. Why? Why am I doing this? Why am I putting pen to paper? What value do I get from it as a business internally and externally from doing this? And then put your resources and your effort, your energy to those audiences and those stakeholders as they need it.
Very true.
So Maya, do you have anything to?
I can share something. I really appreciate what Dr. Nandita and also the Mardi said. In Bangladesh, when we work with the SMEs, the main problem we face the data collection, because you know that SMEs, we have just completed a project in leather sector, and in one company we found the owner, and she has a manager, and this owner and manager keep everything in their brain, okay, and there is no documentation, but they are making lots of profit, you can imagine. So if there is proper documentation and proper paper oriented or online based or whatever, if they can use any software, anything, you can imagine how much they can earn, because this is totally scattered. There is no, proper documentation and all these things. So only the brain is their main weapon, and they are working with their brain, and they are making lots of profit. So this is really very interesting. What Dr. Nandita also said, that if there is any customized and comprehensive reporting format for SMEs, and if we can make them understand what is the importance of reporting. In Bangladesh context, I can say that why we are only rely on the RMG sector for export revenue. You know, other sectors are really backward. And the main problem is in RMG sectors, they have a push from the brands. Okay, so brands require something, but in other sectors, you know, they have also your international buyers and all these things, but now you know that they are not that much smart enough, or they could not be educated, or it is also our fault that we could not make them understand or feel them interest in this way. So we are trying more and more working in this area. We are working with government how to make them feel interest, and also because yesterday also I talked about this, that when we talk to business person, we need to talk in their language, because if you say that ESG performance is required, you are saving planet, they will not bother about this.
They don't bother. Yes.
They are always thinking, yes. For example, if I am working, yes, I will also think of money end of the day, how much I am earning. Whatever, planet, I don't care.
That's exactly right. This all has to be contextually based.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. I completely agree.
Yes, right. So this is the things, yes, we are working in this area in Bangladesh also, but the scenario is changing day by day, and now business leaders are more aware of this, and yes, after this pandemic they can understand more, I think so. And recently we are now implementing a project in association with GRI, with the support of GRI and UNDP, working on sustainability reporting in RMG sector. But yes, we also have planned to work in other sectors, especially in SMEs. So let's see, and you are also here. This talk, this dialogue will not end here, I think. So it will continue, and we will see how this dialogue can be a fruitful, can have a fruitful result in coming days. So let's hope to work together in future. Thank you.
All right. So this is such a pertinent and very interesting subjects to all of us. So Mardi can be talking, can continue to talk for years. We will have her, all of us, we will have her again when hopefully, because this dialogue is not just one time. We also have to be sustainable to our commitment to share what are we doing, how are we doing. ESG has, I think, environmental social governance is much more than the financial capital. To me and to all of you, you would know that environmental and social are the value-based reporting. Great values will always sustain. Capital, we know that the money comes into our pocket and it goes out, and again it comes and it goes out, but values remains. We are of the very strong understanding that companies looking into seriously on their environmental and social performances and governances will definitely add to their sustainability in long term and short term, both. With this panel also, with this August panel, which we have, Mardi and Dr. Nandita, we also come to an understanding that what are the various ways and means for organizations to learn why they shall necessarily disclose that we did hear from Mardi. Nandita did touch upon that how companies could be very crisp and clear, short in their writing and making it meaningful for their stakeholders, shareholders. And thus, this has come to this session comes to its conclusion. But before I say thanks to everyone, I would like to share what we have tomorrow, because tomorrow is our last day of this event. But we have very, very exciting schedule for tomorrow, and the title is the way forward for business and society. And let me tell you, and believe me, that we have some of the best of the mind also for tomorrow. We have an executive director from All India Institute of Medical Sciences, one of the world-renowned institute in the world, I would say. They would share what is the best for us in the given point in time to exercise on environment and to health and safety. We also have our mentor, Asian Productivity Organization Japan. The Secretary General will be presented by Mr. Saraman Lu. He is the Director to Secretary General Asian Productivity Organizations, and he would share the role of intergovernmental organization amidst COVID-19 Asia perspective. Then we have our also founding director. He is with the government, but he is Mr. K.T. Bharadwaj, Regional Director with National Productivity Councils. He is a man who has worked in more than 70 countries, continue to be with the government, but a very think through person into the environmental domain, and he's going to share very pragmatic solutions and data on ESG issues. Then after that, we also have a business leader. We have also invited an industrialist who is the president of with the industry associations called Electronic Industry Association of India, a past president, and he is also a chairman of he is a chairman to ICT committee of Confederation and Indian Industry. So he would be also, he's a known leader, a business leader, very successful one. He would also be sharing that what the leader shall do, given whatever the situation may be, but the leader has a different role to play and they shall play. That's what he would be pitching upon. Then we also have Mr. Nirvay Lumde. He's a director CSR with a global IT company, CGI. It's a huge company having more than 70,000 people globally, provides IT solutions. He's going to share some inspirational story they have during this point in time. They have been out and they have been helping people during this point in time. So they have, for example, helped people through their scholarship programs to continue the education of children's, underprivileged children's, and they have also a digital literacy programs, which is a unique of its kind. So I think you are going to hear that from them as well. We will also be having a esteemed panel from Financial Service Authority, Indonesia, Jakarta. We will have Mr. Inka. Dr. Danta can pronounce him, but I am just pronounce the first one, Inka. So, but he would be presenting that what Financial Authority Indonesia has done to serve people, to serve business better this point in time. Along with him will be our dearest friend and the director, Trisakti University, Uni. We call her Uni, but her full name is Dr. Juniati Gunwan. So she would also be bringing in her experience sharing to this platform. We will also have our country representative from Mongolia. Her name is again Nomun Ukufu. I call her Moon because it's very difficult. She would be also there. So a lot of international brains coming together, sharing what lies ahead, what is that the best we could do during this point in time. That's what we have to share with you, dear participants. Now I really thank Dr. Nandita. I think Mardi somehow maybe lost connection, but okay. So thank you very much, Dr. Nandita. It was sheer pleasure having you here. Thank you so much for making
Thank you.
our event.
It was my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me. Yeah.
And we hope to continue such dialogue and lots of good work together in the time to come.
Definitely. Looking forward for it.
Yeah. So thank you, Dr. Danta, also being
Thank
here all the
Thank
time.
you so much, everyone. Thank you.
And Sumaya always, as always, she's the back of SR Asia. So thank you, Sumaya, also for doing everything to make the event very, very successful. So we close for the day, and we look forward to see all the participants tomorrow to join us. 1:20 Bangladesh time means just afternoon. So kindly register and join us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone. Bye.
He left.